I can't believe I'm saying it. It's Thursday already, November the 9th. I mean, folks, we're almost midway through November. I mean, this time next week, we'll be right in the middle of it. Here we are, just a couple days before one of the great American holidays, and that's Veterans Day. We'll be missing Stefan, by the way, on Veterans Day. Big proponent of veterans. Me too, as it turns out, for some very selfish reasons. One, my dad's a veteran. I'm a veteran. Hope to one day have one of the kids grow up to be a veteran. So we'll keep our eye on that. It's on the weekend, which makes it a little bit weirder. Of course, that means if you work for a government agency, you're going to take off tomorrow and Monday because 4-day weekends are just how you roll. And my hat's off to you for that. We don't get to do that here. Hey, the weather today, really unsurprisingly different than had been predicted in the days before. Didn't everybody expect snow? Billy, did you get any snow? I got there was moisture on the ground.
Yeah, I got a little bit. I mean, nothing that is accumulation, but there were flakes in the air that were falling from the sky, and it was actual snowflakes.
Well, I guess they get credit for that.
Yeah, but no accumulation, nothing else. In fact, I was going to bed and I was hearing on the the weather voodoo that they were saying, well, we're gonna get snow probably between midnight and 3 a.m. And I'm like, that's great. Wonderful. So get my lazy butt out of bed, peek out the window, nothing. And I sat there for a second. Wait, why am I surprised? I've lived here long enough. We do this thing. We know they're guessing. That's okay. We love them still. But,
do we?
Yeah, we do.
I don't.
Yeah. They're mostly lovable. I mean, they're not necessarily offensive. They're just wrong. They're guessing.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. They say it's going to be big ball of fire in the sky today, sunny and cool, 50 degrees, low of 29. I think that's somewhere around freezing. There's a number. It changes. It changes every year. I can't remember. With inflation and stuff, they make that freezing number go up and down. Friday, we're going to shoot up to 57. This weekend, 59 and 62. Still probably indoor sports weather, unless you're a fan of one of the 16 remaining teams in 5A CHSAA football. And we are, of course, because we're Rock Canyon family. And the Jags have figured out a way to make it into a playoff game against Ralston Valley. That creates some problems, potentially.
Why?
What?
Why problems? What?
Well, Jags almost got eliminated by a very scrappy A West team last week. They won because they recovered a fumble in the end zone. Ralston Valley beat that same team by 2 scores. So, you can't judge, hey, if A is greater than B, B is greater than C. It's not quite math.
You can't.
No, you can't. But it is an indication a little bit there, of what's going on. Just like who could have predicted the Broncos were going to finally shake off that 8-year monkey off its back and beating the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So
who would have thought that Manchester United was going to lose in Copenhagen, Denmark yesterday? 4-3.
Beautiful segue.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
right
that.
into soccer.
Yeah, it was. But again, Man U loses 4-3 in Denmark to Copenhagen. That's ridiculous. Yeah, you can't predict these things.
Is it Hagen as in Haagen-Dazs? Not Hagen. It's not Hagen.
Who knows? They're so far away they can't get mad at me anyway. So what are they going to do?
It's the Netherlands are the orange guys. What color are these dudes?
Manchester United's England. So,
but no, the Copenhagen guys.
Oh, the Denmark guys.
Guys.
They were wearing that club. I'm trying to think. It's FC Copenhagen. They're wearing all white. Is their home traditional kit.
Risky.
Yeah. So it is.
Stains.
But the thing is, if you do it right, the all white home kit is really special. Real Madrid does it the best out of anybody. Tottenham has a wonderful all white home kit. If you do all white at home, and I had one team I played for where our home kit was all white, and it is really sharp if you do it right. The thing is, it's got to be uniform. You don't goof with it. You don't go, well, maybe we'll do white and we'll do a little splash of color on the socks. No. It is white with a little tiny bit of accent, and you choose that being a red, a gold, a blue, or a black. That's all. No more. That's how it goes.
Become sensitized enough by our woke culture that you say we do all white at home, and instantly I'm like, I don't think we can say that on air.
That, no.
I don't think you can talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just like the New Zealand rugby team,
the
All Blacks. I'm like, no, you can't say that. You have to say something else.
But back in some of my other broadcasting days, had a person that was listening to me in Australia.
Wow.
And they sent me an All Blacks jersey. which is really cool.
Is that the upside down or the down under? It's one of those.
The down under.
Yeah. I think the upside down may be
Stranger Things. Yeah. You're not a Men at Work fan, are you?
No, I know they're hit.
Hey, they've got 3.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to define what hit means. Apparently,
I got 3.
It's like art, right?
Yeah.
Like if I can do it, it's not art.
Yeah, that's true.
If I don't know it, it probably wasn't a hit.
Yeah.
From the 80s or 90s.
I
Now today,
disagree.
you could name anything that's hugely viral, and I wouldn't know it.
Yeah, we've tested some of your musical knowledge.
No,
I'm
buddy,
not certain about that.
Every once in a while, I look at a smudge on a wall and say, Van Gogh. It's that kind of equivalent thing with music where I hear a tune and I think that's either AC/DC or the latest Kraft commercial.
God, see, I've fallen down a hole in the last 24 hours with a punk band out of Canada called the Crease Rule. They're fan-freaking-tastic.
Really?
They are wonderful.
Out of Canada. Do they have...
shout out to Jeb here locally at TCL who turned me on to them. I appreciate you, man. Absolutely wonderful band. And more on the silly side of the punk thing, more Blink 182.
Silly punk?
Well, think Blink 182, and early Green Day. There is that rather than the
not
Sex
strong
Pistols,
enough social commentary and hatred.
No, there isn't, and there isn't some. I mean, you get into some Rancid and stuff like that, you can get into it. But no, it's early Green Day. I mean, later Green Day, very social commentary oriented. Early Green Day is very simple, and you look at things like Operation Ivy. That's again somewhat tongue in cheek, but it's Blink 182 is probably the easiest reference for the audience, and they are silly. They are a silly pop punk band, and so Crease Rule kind of leans into that. In fact, the song that I've been listening to the most right now is this is embarrassing. This is a kid. It's about a kid who's new in school and is going to a high school party. So it's the first party at the school, and he's going there, and he unfortunately makes the bad decision to connect with the high school drug dealer and eat some magic mushrooms before going to the party. And it's his experience. What? Yes, I know. It is. And the thing is, they're going, how is that the premise of a song? But the whole idea is he's making this reference about how he feels outside and he can't do this, and he's hallucinating. So the references inside the song are absolutely just hilarious. It's really funny and very clever. It's one of the few times, that I've laughed at a song in years from the punk genre. It is fantastic.
Someone texted in, Billy, I love that Billy makes an opinion an absolute fact. Quote, all white, no splash of color.
No, not at all. It's a fashion thing.
It has just a touch of Trump to it, by the way, when you do it that way. With the whole...
This is how much of a nerd I am. There is a YouTube channel out there that I follow fairly religiously that are two guys that used to design, and sometimes they do, but their former career, they designed the soccer kits, which is the uniforms. It's called the kits in soccer. Yeah. So they design them, and now they come back and they critique other soccer kits. These guys have designed for all the big ones. They've designed some of the most historically famous kits on the planet in terms of soccer legends, and they come in and they critique. This is good here. I don't like this. I don't like the stitching. And it is fantastic. They go through every league. They go even the national team jerseys. And it's really neat.
I just don't want this to sound wrong. Are they gay?
No, not at all.
Okay. Is the name of their podcast, The Kits Are All Right?
No.
Although quickly we need to trademark that now.
We do.
So they don't crap that up.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I need to pay attention more. When I was in England and I was looking at different things out there. And of course they were at International Week or whatever. So we got hosed out of getting to watch them play live. I did notice that there were entire stores dedicated to these teams. And I told you the one was is it Celtic or Celtic?
Celtic.
Okay. The Celtic.
It's called Celtic. Yeah.
And the other one were the Rangers. Whole friggin' stores that were just nothing but that stuff.
Yep. And you do not cross the two, not those two.
No, well, and I'm glad you said something too, because I could have seen me showing up with a Ranger scarf and a Celtic shirt or something.
Then I would have had to kick you in the nads and then pee on you while you're on the ground.
That's honoring each of their traditions.
Yes, exactly.
I guess it seems a lot like you'd be wearing a blue coat with a Confederate gray hat.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like, what are you doing?
Absolutely, yeah.
You can't cross those streams.
It is absolutely that. And the English football and football international soccer internationally has figured out a scam that the NBA has just realized in the last 5 or 6 years. And the NFL and Major League Baseball wishes they had this idea. The giant scam inside of soccer wasn't always this way. But the giant scam is you refresh the uniform every year. It used to be every other year. home year was done one year, and then away kit was done the next year, and it would alternate. So you'd get 2 years with the same home kit, 2 years with the same away kit. They switch every year now because they've realized the fans will just buy the new stuff. So let's just make them the new stuff. So every year, you get a new one. And there's a lot of pressure as far as what to buy. And some are nicely repetitive and you don't have to because it doesn't matter. But yeah, it is a giant scam. Imagine if the Broncos had a brand new uniform every year. Think about that gravy train.
Yeah, but you go up the road to CU Boulder and they have a different uniform for every game.
Oh, I know. But that's excessive. Because that
is excessive.
Yeah, because now you have no choices. That's why soccer's figured this out.
Hold on, don't you have choices?
Away. No, you have home, you have away, and you have a third kid, an alternate. You have 3, but they change every single year. So imagine if the Broncos came out every year with a new home and a new away jersey. Huh. You wouldn't go and buy it every year, but the cycle of the purchase, it almost repeats itself because you're basically shaving off a third of the people aren't going to buy it every year, but the other 2/3 are going to come back. It is a phenomenal scam and cash grab. It's ridiculous.
More than a uniform for a different day of the week up in Boulder.
Yes, because it allows you to focus. Like Boulder, they have to produce all those uniforms. And each one of those has to then be produced and manufactured, and then they have to order them. Much easier when you only have 3 choices rather than 17. Much easier as far as manufacturing and getting them produced and putting them on the shelves. Much easier.
If I could find a team I could get involved in enough to follow it, I would do that.
You are so busy. I would give you a team. I'd tell you.
I'd try to figure it out.
What I would do is I would just ask you what type of a team, if you had to, we would blend all of your other, who do you like in basketball? Who you like in baseball? Who you like in football? We'd blend that together. And then I would find you the culture and say, this is your team. This is the team that represents that culture. As I've told you before, Newcastle, I didn't know it at the time. My team, who I have loved since I was 6 years old, I didn't know it at the time. Their culture is about 2/3 New Jersey and 1/3 Alabama. Very unique culture. Not necessarily one that you want to write home about. But yeah, they're crazy. They're lunatics. And I appreciate all of them. You think the Raiders fans are nuts? No.
No. I don't think nuts. I think they're criminals. Well, that's totally different.
Again, same thing with the Geordies. You should see. There are a lot of criminals in those stands.
Now that we're on the sports thing, nice segue once again. I don't know how you got us on the soccer thing, but it was so smooth. It was like a great pass.
You're welcome.
Nuggets last night. Didn't get a chance to watch a single second, but I was trying to track it on the ESPN thing. Dropped the ball before I went to bed. Woke up this morning frantic, like, oh my God, what happened? Because we were, of course, playing GSW, and we won again.
Yeah, and the stuff I was reading, the write-ups, because the same thing, had to tap out early. Reading the write-ups, they were like, Jokic was tired, but he still put a whooping on. And I'm like, he's tired and puts up 35. I'm like, dude,
it's just, I don't know. And we didn't I don't think we have Jamal Murray for like the next month, which is nuts because that dude is critical.
Yes, he is. It is crazy. It's crazy to watch. And
the role players and the bench players. And I read something where some writer was talking about how they have just figured themselves out where guys are playing selflessly. They know what they're supposed to do on the court, when they're supposed to do it. And it's just become this thing. They said they sit back, let Jokic do his brilliance and stuff. And they need to be where he knows they're going to be. And in some ways it feels patriot-ish. You know what I mean? It was sort of a Tom Brady. It's not a direct comparison, but Tom Brady, great quarterback. Obviously he was better than just the system he was in, but you put a great quarterback in a great system where people do the things they're supposed to do. And you win rings.
There are 2 things there. That one is the thing, and we've talked about it before, that what I see in the Denver Nuggets when I watch them is something that you see from elite soccer teams. And it's the idea of playing for each other. It's not about what I need to do on the court or on the field in order to get where I need to go. It's about where do I need to be to make my teammates better. It's not about and so that's the beautiful thing with the Nuggets. And if you watch this on the court, the other players that are rotating around Murray and Jokic, it's not about where those players want to be in order to take their shots. It's about where do Murray and Jokic need me to be
that's right.
in order to facilitate.
That's what it looks like from the layman's standpoint.
It is the idea, and it is a core tenet inside of soccer that you play for your teammates, because the amount of time you touch the ball versus the time that you're going to be running around there like a crazy man with a chicken with your head cut off is vastly different. You don't get to touch the ball that often, but you spend a lot of time running to useless places. Make sure you run to the right place, not the useless place.
Sounds like my adult life so far.
It is. It's funny when you talk about the Patriots. I ran into not one, and I showed you the headline, but two different, I guess you'd say, autopsies of the Patriot way. Yeah, and it was really nice. I'm gonna have to send you one of them because dude just like
what's the gist?
Basically saying, yeah, Belichick was a scam. That's basically what it is. Yeah, and what they roll through is some really interesting things. They talk about Don Shula getting all of these wins with 6 different starting quarterbacks. Yet
that seems kind of a big deal.
Yet 18 of the 20 seasons in which Belichick has a winning record, Brady's the quarterback in 18 out of 20. With Brady, with Brady, Belichick's winning percentage is 78%. Without him, it's 45.
Oh.
And Brady has a much higher winning percentage without Belichick, but again, it's a smaller sample size. And they go through also the Belichick coaching tree, which basically it's just a stick. There's no branches. They got no branches at all. There's nobody that has come off the Belichick coaching tree and has had success. And there was one guy, I think he was on Deadspin, that he's wrapping up and he's like, can you believe that we thought Belichick and this group of coaching morons were these soothsayers in the NFL for so long?
Dude was widely regarded as the wizard.
Yeah. And they were like, no, that the bloom has fallen off that rose. And they are just taking Belichick apart.
Man, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they basically
Boston's eating their own.
Yeah, I love the fact that they were basically like, the Patriot way was a scam. The Patriot way is nothing at all because without Brady, Belichick cannot replicate the Patriot way. And the person also delved into how many stars on the Patriots team went elsewhere and then became bigger stars versus how many scrubs came to the Patriots and became serviceable players. And they were saying now Belichick can't replicate that now because he's doing the same thing. But then Brady was able to make those players better on the field. So that was kind of and I thought it was really interesting when I thought about how many of those people left the Patriots and then were still superstars. And the answer would be 0.
Is it 0?
I think pretty much. Yeah, I can't think of any.
I think, though, that all Brady did was probably highlight how exceptional Peyton Manning was, too. And they're definitely in the same zip code when you have a conversation about great quarterbacks. But Peyton Manning elevated the game of everybody he played with.
Yeah.
And that turns out to be what Brady brought to the table, too. I mean, once he got in there and proved he was a winner, there was just a confidence they had. And his level of preparation was insane. Just like Peyton Manning's, the level of preparation. I presume for Peyton, it was more mental than physical. And he's not an avocado toast either, I don't think. But that's what it looks like to me, is that these two guys were genuine leaders. They didn't rely on any God-given talent because if you look at each of them, outside of height and a competitive spirit, neither one of them is really built to be like a Jalen Hurts or a Tua, they just don't have those kinds of skills.
Keep this in mind when we get to, and I appreciate this, that now the NFL Combine is now referred to as the Underwear Olympics. I appreciate that. And Mike Evans here locally has part reputation for bringing that to the general conversation. When you're watching the Underwear Olympics and everybody's talking about the measurables of these quarterbacks and, wow, they are, they're this tall and they've got this kind of an arm and this, and wow, they look like the prototypical, NFL quarterback. Neither Manning or Brady did that, and they are two of the best. That maybe we don't judge the book by its cover. I'm just saying, Garoppolo, great looking guy, except, he ticks all the boxes except for having a weak arm. He's had one successful season in a decade. So maybe you don't do that. And my best and favorite story about Peyton Manning, I think, comes from Nate Jackson when he's broadcasting. He talks about going against Peyton, and then after they had both retired, he comes up and he's talking to him. He's like, "Oh man, it was so hard going against you in this, and we always used to disguise our coverages." And he goes, "Yeah." And Peyton turns to him and he goes, "Yeah, you guys weren't any good at it." He goes, "What?" and he goes, "Yeah." And Nate Jackson talks about this one play where they would line up this way, and they were trying to show Peyton this look. And they were like, we do this, and you'd know that we were doing this and how and why. And You know what Peyton's answer was to Nate as
No.
far as how he knew when they were faking a certain, whether or not the safety was going to come in down into the box and try to stop the run or stay high and run a double safety. And they were like, we were trying to disguise that, and you always knew. And he goes, well, you know how I knew, Nate? He goes, no, it's your feet. And
What?
He goes, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, if you watch the tape, Nate, when you guys are on the dummy, your feet point this way. When you're going to stay back and run and rotate to this
Holy
part,
crap.
your feet point that way. And Nate goes,
that's different level stuff, man.
oh crap. And he sat there and he
like
goes,
my whole career,
yes.
I've been giving this tell.
Yes. And he sat there and he goes, that's the moment that I realized that Peyton Manning was playing the game on a different level.
Oh my gosh.
99% of the players in the league. He goes, that is the first time anybody has ever told me anything like that. And he goes, and to think about that, that is the quarterback looking at where the safety's feet are pointing within the 5 or 6 seconds that he's at the line. He goes, it broke my head. Yeah, which I love. I just love that.
It's another reason that and the sense of humor and timing is why the Manning cast is the best way to watch Monday Night Football. Honestly, if you can do it, you ought to get to it. Yeah. Another couple things, and I'm sure we'll talk about them throughout the show. That turns out there was a debate last night.
I've heard. I was in a bar. Sorry.
See, you were lucky. Yeah. I was working on a column, sitting on the couch while I had this thing on, and it cycled through. What was I on? Peacock.
Okay.
Because I got to it late. So they just cycled through it. It's like twice.
Oh,
so
wow.
I jumped in the middle of it, and then I got to see the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get people's takeaways on this. There were some interesting things that were said, but once again, man, I'm looking at these people thinking, who can I picture sitting behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office telling me horrible news? Because nobody comes on to say, good news, everybody. We've all won the lottery.
Exactly.
Take the next couple years off.
Yes.
I don't know, man. It's hard.
Yeah,
it's super hard. And across town, of course, and by that I mean across the country.
Yeah.
Maybe it's across town. Where did Trump do his thing?
Did
he also do it in Florida? I think he might have.
I think he did do it in Florida.
So across town.
Yeah.
I
did find that audio you're looking for.
Yeah, he does a rally. We'll share some of that audio. I can't tell you where I was recently, but more and more when people start bringing up, well, hey, we're now into the thick of the presidential election and all that. And there's always that awkward pause. And someone will say, is this the best we got? I mean, is this it? Is this where America 330 million strong? Yeah. These are the people that are vying to lead the country. Like, how did we get here? I don't know the answer. I really don't know the answer.
Is it Mark Twain that wrote that the biggest indicator, and this is not exactly the writing, but the tone of it was, the biggest indicator of someone that should not be elected president of the United States is the fact that they want to be elected president of the United States. Yeah. That is the biggest tell that maybe they shouldn't have the job. And that's kind of, some of what we're seeing.
In some way, that's the backstory for Truman, who just sort of tripped his way into the White House. Of course, then he ran for re-election, but it was sort of his story. Ford in some ways. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, speaking of the tripping.
Yeah. The Chevy Chase thing, exactly. Of course, too. The guy was an NCAA athlete. He was a Michigan Wolverine.
Yes. And that's what he's known for.
And people are like, well, I'm Billy Buckner. Same thing. Billy Buckner. Great at his position for so long. One big mistake. And everybody knows when they say the word Buckner that you're talking about the 1986 Mets ball. Yep. Anyway, so we'll get to some of that as well. We'll talk about the debate stuff. I hope you guys had a chance to watch it. I did not watch any of the Trump rally stuff. I just didn't have time, frankly. But we'll get your opinions on that as well. More stuff that we can haggle over in the future on some of these topics, things that are taking place locally as well. The crime thing never goes away. Some interesting developments in Boulder with the mass shooting case, some interesting developments down in the Springs. I don't want to say more than that because I don't know what Billy's about to do, because we're going to cut away for a break and come back and we're going to do the Thorpe Report. But we can't do it until I tell you about Mitch Floria and the Art of Granite. Mitch Floria does counters. That's what he does. This isn't a guy who says, I'll do everything for every part of your house. Come trust me. Let's find it. That's not him. Mitch has found a way to become a subject matter expert on really one thing, and that is the countertop. So whether it's your bathroom or your kitchen or even the downstairs, and we should talk to Mitch more about this when we finally get him back in, but the finished basement thing, more and more I see people installing countertops for their wet bar area or just some area where they want to have food and drinks that maybe even doesn't have a sink or something like that. Mitch can do it for you, and Mitch is a craftsman. Mitch's showroom, got to go there. It's like the Disney World of countertops, and if that sounds a little nutty, I'm telling you, you get there and you're kind of amazed at how beautiful these giant slabs of things they've unearthed are. Huge pieces that they can turn into it. Now, I got a countertop that they had to find a way to cut it and then match up the seams and stuff, and they did a pretty good job. This is, of course, for buying the house, so I didn't have the Mitch option. But I'm telling you, if you've got a situation like that and Mitch doesn't have a piece big enough, this guy is an artisan here that will put these two things together and make it seem seamless. He'll also value and honor 710 listeners by saying, not only do you get wholesale prices, but if you tell him you're a George listener, he will throw in, wait for it, the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. That's a huge savings. Also, if you just said, well, what if I only want to do one room at a time? That's cool. He'll throw in the sink for free with the countertop package. All you have to do is call him on a cell phone at 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. He's our guy, Mitch Floria at theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. When we come back, we're going to get made a lot smarter, a little more depressed from the Thorpe Report, and then we pick you right back up with You Choose the News. Stick around. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today. Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Plenty of time to hand it over to the big man to bring you down before we pick you right back up. It's BT's with the T Report.
Hey, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, it's going to be a little down today. Highs of only 48 degrees. Overnight lows down into the mid-20s. Little sunnier tomorrow, high of 55, 58 by Veterans Day on Saturday. Sunday, a bit warmer, 61 and 65 by the time we roll back into Monday. That always seems unfair, how we don't get the good weather and then Monday turns nice. I don't know. But Inglewood police have identified a suspect in the fatal shooting of a woman back in September. Inglewood Police Department said in a release that 41-year-old Jose Bustamante is wanted for shooting and killing Suani Melgar Almendez. Yeah, Almendez. I guess that's how you pronounce it. 41 years old in September. Sorry about that, Suani. A $5 million cash-only warrant has been issued for his arrest, referred to first-degree murder and tampering with a deceased human body. Also, after Tuesday's resounding defeat of statewide Proposition HH, which was supposed to provide tax relief and then take all your Tabor refunds, oddly enough now, the high-ranking governor and other Democrats say, maybe we should have a special session.
What?
Yeah, I know.
No.
There are rumors there may be a special session announced within the last 24 hours. Imagine the legislators having to do what they're supposed to.
Amazing. If they could have done it during the existing session rather than run this jive by us, this could already be in the books.
You talk so silly. That is just ridiculous.
That's nuts.
God, why would you expect that? The city of Denver swept a homeless encampment in Denver's Ballpark neighborhood November 1st. 1 week later, the encampment's back. Only not exactly the same place. They've just moved a block away. If only we had real-life experience with that right outside our doors.
Here at 225 and Parker
If only
Road.
we could have shown them we have real-life experience over the last several years of that's pretty much exactly what happens. Surprise! Already, more than 500 Dish Network employees are being laid off this week by the satellite TV provider. Yeah, according to a statement, the company is making the move due to changing business demands. What kind of demands? Well, not as much money. They reported $3.7 billion in revenue for the third quarter of 2023 compared to $4.1 for the same quarter last year. The company lost $139 million in the third quarter of 2023 compared to $412 net revenue in quarter 3 of 2022. So obviously, it is all these 500 employees' responsibility. It is their fault. So fire them immediately. It's not clear how many of them work in Colorado. Obviously, they caused the company to vastly lose money, so they should be punished. Punished forthwith.
That's it.
Yes. The owners of a Southern Colorado funeral home accused of improperly storing 190 bodies were arrested in Oklahoma on Wednesday. Court documents now are revealing the absolutely abhorrent conditions found inside the Return to Nature funeral home in Penrose. Evidently, they were taking that name a little too literally by just letting the people sit around. Yeah.
It's nature's way, Billy.
Exactly. They said the smell was absolutely ridiculous trying to walk inside the building. They found numbers of bodies, including some of them stacked on top of each other, not refrigerated and not kept in body bags.
God.
Num-nums. Okay, now as long as back to your breakfast. That's all I got.
That's it. That was
I like to end on a happy note.
I expected to be depressed.
Yeah.
I did not expect to be disgusted. The case down in the Springs, interestingly, a friend of the show and Super District Attorney Michael Allen was part of a presser yesterday where he tried to keep expectations ratcheted down for it. I took a look at here's what we don't know.
Yeah.
We know what charges these guys were arrested on. And I've talked to the media about this a ton, and you guys know this already. What the cops think the charges are, there's good overlap with what they ultimately are, but they don't dictate that. So Michael's going to have to make some decisions about what to charge them on. And I haven't seen yet, maybe I missed it, that he's already filed those charges. It's usually within 3 days after these people have been hooked up and processed for a filing of charges. So the ones I've seen on there are a ton of low-level probation-eligible charges. The only F3 that I saw in a third-class felony is still a probation-eligible presumptive 4 to 12 years, was the money laundering. That was it.
Wow.
So, you see stuff like this and you think, this is horrible, this is disgusting, this is egregious, these people ought to go to jail or prison. They might not. You just don't know. You just don't know what's going on there.
That's scary.
It's all probation-eligible. So we'll keep tabs on it. We're not going to be able, obviously, to ask Michael about it now that it's in his pocket to prosecute. And then up in Boulder, I don't know if you saw this, Billy.
Yeah, what?
But there was the Boulder massacre case. DA's office came forward and said, "Hey, Judge, we'd like you to unseal the case, but keep it from public view."
Wait, how does that work?
Yeah, until the case is over. I thought the same thing. So I started reading the article. I'm trying to understand it here. And so part of the problem is
that's to me, I'm sorry, I keep thinking about that is like walking into a strip club with everybody behind an opaque window. You're like, yeah, we're all taking our clothes off, but you can't see it. Like,
yeah. It
I
feels
don't think
like
you understand the
saying-
business model here.
It feels like telling someone, hey, listen, I'm going to say something to you. It's not a secret, but you can't tell anyone
Yes.
else on the planet.
Exactly.
And it's like, well,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
kind of what a secret is.
Yeah, I don't think you
Same
understand the
thing.
meaning of this word. You keep
Part
using
of-
that word.
Part of the
Doesn't mean what
problem
you
is,
think it means.
is right, very Princess Bride.
Thank you.
We 1987 classic. We have a change of rules and statutes here that govern transparency and require a higher level of it. I know this personally because, in part, when the media started covering this, our jurisdiction, while I was the DA but preceding me, was sealing cases all the time for nothingness. So I remember it was Dave Magoya, friend of the show and a super investigative reporter, had come to me and said, George, I want to talk to you about the fact that your office has more sealed cases than anybody else in the metro area. Why is that? And I said, that's not true. I don't ask that cases be sealed, and I can't understand why anyone on my team would. And he starts showing me these numbers. I go back, check with my guys, and they're like, it's kind of a holdover from the prior administrations. We just sort of automatically do it in high profile cases. And I said, well, why do you think that's okay? Just the fact that it's high profile doesn't mean the public doesn't get to scrutinize what we're doing. It's part of keeping government accountable, right? Is like the ability to look inside the courtroom and say, what are you doing with this member of society that you have shackled to that table? That kind of thing. And so we fundamentally changed the way we did business, but it ultimately resulted in some rule changes with the Supreme Court. Nonetheless, this is a way to...
On a side note,
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting there, and just as where my weird brain is seeing and what I think is a really, really wonderful insight moment there is an example of institutional momentum. That inside of government, oftentimes we continue doing it this way simply because that's how it's always been done. The people were, and it wasn't to no fault of their own. They did not re-examine the process and ask the questions. But it was institutional momentum. It's just a great example of how that happens.
It was a conveyor belt of decision making.
Exactly.
We've always done it that way.
These things keep going. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
So anyway, so we end up, there's some rule changes at the Supreme Court level, all this other stuff to make it more accessible. Well, now I read this article and I'm like, well, wait, are we trying to beat the system by just changing the words, right? Like, we unsealed the case. So now we've complied with the rules, but we're not going to let anybody see it. Like, I still got to figure out more what's going on here. I kind of want to shoot this over to Steve Zansberg or one of these other freedom of information folks, because it just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it seems very weird.
I think we're just changing the words. I think what we've done is we're trying to call this marriage a civil union or something like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, same outcome.
Yep.
We're all doing the same thing.
Yep.
We're just not going to use the term marriage.
Yeah,
okay.
not going to use the name.
Yeah. So we'll follow those things as well. If you guys have any insights on it, of course, as always, you make us smarter here too. Let us know. Give us a call. Hey, we're going to cut away for a break and we're going to come back and do the good stuff. That's the that's the You Choose the News. We already had the depressing stuff and slightly disgusting stuff. In fact, Alexa texted in, I would not call the smell of decomposing bodies ridiculous. Putrid or horrific are probably better descriptions. Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, if you're going to get to hair splitting over the appropriate words, yes, that's
Alexa's got
probably right. Let me tell you about someone else who will hair split for you and your benefit, and that's when it comes to making the law fit in a way that gets you justice, is a guy named Dan Kaplan and his partner, Baber Waheed. Let me tell you a little bit about Baber. Baber was a law student. This is Dan's partner now in his firm for so long. He was an intern in his office while he went to law school. I think Baber was a DU guy, not as good as CU, but you know, he's right up there. And of course, I still teach at DU, so I say that tongue in cheek. And Baber was graduating law school. He took the bar, passed the bar, just as we were about to launch this trial. This case tells you so much about Dan Kaplan, and that is Baber had never tried a case before. We wanted to get him in the courtroom. Previously, this case had shown up. It was a past client of Dan's that he'd helped get some justice for an injury that she suffered at the hands of someone else. She shows back up and says, Dan, I know you don't do this kind of work, but I'm being screwed by this this Jeep repair place that charged me a ton of money to stick these leaky, faulty parts on it. And now I got to go pay all this money again to get it fixed. When I complained about this guy on Better Business Bureau website, he sued me for defamation and slander for over $1 million. Dan was like, oh, did he? Did he really? Well, we're going to go kick his ass in court. And so Dan got me involved. We got Bobber sworn in the day before the trial. It was John Wheeler, who's now retired, very first civil trial. And we went in there and kicked the crap out of the other side for nothing, for free. Dan told this woman, he's like, oh no, I'm so incensed by this. We're not going to charge you a penny for this. That's who this guy is, right? Like if he thinks there's a righteous cause, he doesn't care about anything else other than trying to get justice for his clients. So, if that's the kind of person you'd like representing you, not the kind of person who's going to be looking at every penny that comes in and goes out of the business, then you got to call Dan Kaplis and Bobber Wahid at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551. Check them out at dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan Kaplis, Kaplis law.com. When we come back, you choose the news. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly. To clear the clutter, contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
Little ANC right here on the GB show on 710 KNUS. It's that time. Before I hand it over, though, I just want to acknowledge Mark Crowley, who is here. Sadly, for him, I think, working the video. So if you're on the YouTubes and the Rumbles, you can see this. He has described today's outfit that yours truly is wearing as John Fetterman Day here at the radio station.
I think that's a compliment.
In some ways, it is. It's a sweatshirt. It's a hoodie, folks. I mean, granted, I'm not Hugh Hewitt. I'm not Dennis Prager. And these are guys that are like, I've worn a shirt and tie to work every single day. I'm like, not me.
No.
I did that when I was the DA. Right
We don't have
now.
a clothing budget.
Yeah, if we had a clothing budget or if somebody just cared.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, either of those things. Listen, speaking of caring, it's now time.
Yeah, let's see.
For You Choose the News.
Yeah, we have almost no time. You choose news, funny stories, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's paying attention. Here's silly things. Alrighty. Got to get through these as quickly as I
had no
can.
idea what time it was.
Somebody does not think their clever plan all the way through. Headline number 2, is this a hint? Headline number 3, was it a member of Congress? And headline number 4, dummies fool bigger dummies.
Congress.
All right. Was this a member of Congress? Well, recently in Scotland, they had to cut a performance at the Edinburgh Usher Hall short for the Royal Scottish National Orchestra. Why? Fire crews were called to the scene because it was an emergency. They were sure that the building was on fire. Well, no, a concert goer pushed the wrong button and thought that opened the door, and it actually was a fire alarm. Not a member of Congress.
Buddy, I just want you to keep talking all the way through 6:50.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we're just going to keep doing it.
Someone does not think their clever plan. Is this a hint or dummies?
Hint.
Okay, is this a hint? Vancouver, Washington. More than 400 earthquakes have been detected beneath Washington's Mount St. Helens in recent months. That might be a hint that she's going to go boom. Just going to say. Might be she's telling us something. Alrighty, sir. We might make this work. Final choice. Someone does not think their clever plan, or dummies fool bigger dummies.
Dummies fool bigger dummies.
Dummies fool bigger dummies. We are traveling into Poland, the University of Warsaw Public Library at the university there. Recently, they realized someone's been stealing books in a dastardly way. They would check them out and then bring back a different book with a fake cover, and we'd put it back on the shelves, and we didn't notice. They've lost over $90,000 in books. These are rare Russian books.
How do you
around
lose
80
books?
volumes. They didn't check them when they came back. When the person returned them, they had a fake cover on them. The person goes, looks good to me. And just put it back on the shelf. They didn't actually, open the books. Some of the books were blank on the inside.
I do the same thing with returned food all the time.
Yeah, I used to try that at Blockbuster, but they caught me. Alrighty.
Hey, you may not have, first off, congratulations. Folks may not have heard this, but there was a big time debate by 5 people who'd love to be president of the United States and one who just didn't show up. We'll talk about it when we come back. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here at 710 KNUS. It's hour 2. We get replaced in just a few hours by a guy named Charlie Kirk. He's going to feature a bit in the next segment or so as we talk about what took place last night down there in Florida. And that was the third Republican presidential debate. The field keeps getting thinner. And yeah, Charlie Kirk not on the stage, but on the stage, or at least someone, it seems to me, was echoing Chuck Kirk from yesterday. After Charlie, of course, at 11, we got the DP man, Dennis Prager. He wears a shirt and tie to the studio. I don't know what Charlie wears, by the way, Mark. And then at 1 o'clock, of course, Seb Gorka. I think he wears a full suit to the show. And then we get replaced by Jimmy Sengenberger at 3, who's in a onesie. I'm kidding. He's not in a onesie at all. I saw Jimmy at the Aurora victory party thing too, man. The guy is just so upbeat all the time. It's a little infectious, and it looks like he's killing it here on the text. You guys are treating him really well. He's really increased the amount of engagement that we have over that hour, and I just think that that's fantastic. And then, of course, 4 to 7, we've got the brand new guy for us. His name is Brandon Tatum, police officer. I got what's Mark says? Brandon Tatum wears what? He wears a He wears a t-shirt. That's great. This is an internal thing, folks, that you're witnessing right now, and that is the ongoing debate about what yours truly should be wearing since I'm on the camera here. The YouTubes, frankly, do that right now. If you're watching on the YouTubes or the Rumbles, chime in with the appropriate attire. It could be tongue-in-cheek, but honestly, do you want me in a shirt and a tie? Because, one, that's never going to happen, but 2, at 4 a.m, folks, it's just enough for me to find a toothbrush. Please don't make me find a clean shirt to wear and bring it in here. And frankly, it would be the equivalent of the business mullet. You know what I mean? It would be all business up top, party down below. And every once in a while, yeah, there's a risk of a Tubin moment, but so far that's never happened. So yesterday on the stage, we whittled the field down. If you recall, the first debate had 100. The second debate had, I think, 7. We've lost 2 since the second debate. Those 2 are Mike Pence. He tapped out. And the other one was Governor Burgum from North Dakota. The dude has all the money in the world and can do this. Unfortunately, the requirements for him to make the stage are be more than be rich. It's you got to poll at a certain level in a certain number of major polls, or within at least the first couple big states. I think it's New Hampshire, South Carolina, Iowa, something like that. He couldn't make the polling thing. You also had to have 70,000 unique donors with a certain number from at least from each state. And I'm not sure he matched that either. But you know who did make the stage were Chris Christie, and I'm going left to right here, I think. Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Tim Scott. So if you look at the stage for the second debate, all we've done is lop off the 2 ends. And looking at what's going to happen in the future, I could see us continuing to move in towards the center. I'd love to get your sense of what you witnessed last night or what you've even heard on the social media. Somebody texting in, Mom always said, dress for the job you want, and your hair is your crowning glory. So I'm not sure what I'm advertising here for. Maybe it's the U.S. Senate. But I'd love to hear what your reaction was to this. I sat through the debate watching it on Peacock so that I jumped in late, but they just recycled it and started over. So I was able to watch the whole thing, just not in the order that it presented itself. I found it interesting. You know that the Lester Holt, Kristen Welker from Meet the Press, she took over for Chuck Todd, and then our own Hugh Hewitt were the moderators that were on there. It's interesting to me, not surprising, I guess. And somebody just now suggested wear a top hat and a monocle. I presume that's a reference to Monopoly. What I was impressed by was how willing these folks were, at least Ron DeSantis, who got the very first question. He's right in the dead center stage. And I think that's a reflection of the fact that he happens to be in the perceived second place spot by a jillion points to Donald Trump. And the first question could have been, Governor DeSantis, what's your favorite color? And he vomits up a minute and a half long response that maybe is responsive, but it's clearly a prepared opening statement that is just a response to any question that he was going to be asked. I mean, they could have said, name the person to your right, and he would have given the same answer. It's just, that's the thing. But it was, again, a moment where, and Billy, I feel shallow on this, but I'm watching Ron DeSantis, and as much as I love what this guy has done as governor, and I would much prefer to see him as president than our current occupant of the White House, I can't get there, man. Dude has a permanent, I don't even know if you're allowed to say this in the 7 o'clock hour. He has resting bitch face for a guy. I mean, that dude is constantly in a frown. He looks like a pug. You know what I mean? With his face, or a boxer of sorts. His mouth is constantly downturned. He has this interesting squint, and none of this is substantive, folks. I'm telling you, this is all super shallow, superficial stuff. Yeah. And then the voice comes in, and I'm like,
and it's weird that you that you have these type of superficial judgments in these cases, and it is not fair, but it is reality. And they oftentimes talk about one of the touchstone questions for someone, and they will ask this when we get to the final two choices between the Republicans and Democrats. It'll be which one do you want to have a beer with? And that's the idea. And DeSantis would be uncomfortable. He is his personal interactions one-on-one are uncomfortable. When he's up there on the stage, that you pointed it out, he has this weird bobblehead thing that he does.
The bobblehead thing, which showed up again last night, and I'm watching, and I'm like, dude, please, come on, man.
And it's, again, these are all superficial. The one that gets me is his lizard thing that he does with his lips. He does this thing where he has this habit, and I feel this
lizard thing.
Yeah, and I feel this, one, because I'm a reptile guy, two, because I do the same thing too. Chapstick and having your lips dry out all the time, and so being conscious about your lips. And if you watch Ron DeSantis, he does this thing where his lips, he does this. He's like, he looks like
holy smokes. Now that you say that,
yes. So basically, it's like his lips are pursed,
God, you're
and
right.
his tongue comes out and kind of goes bloop, and just kind of he looks like a blue tongue skink. Is what I think of it, because that's what does it.
Did you say skank?
No, I said skink. But I'm making, they're, don't you know the skink family? They're large.
I did, but they moved away. The dad got a new job out of town.
Rounded tails. They're kind of okay. I'm disappointed.
Blue-tailed skink.
No,
don't you know the skinks?
No,
I'm sorry, blue tongue. The blue tails are their
distant
distant cousins.
Yes, exactly. That's they're the ones that perform in Vegas. But those, So, but that's what he does. He's got this little lizard skink thing that he's like. And he licks, and I'm I mean, there are times
he did it last night, man. He did it last night.
There are times in which I look at him and go, that's just some reptile wearing a human suit.
He did it last night after a particularly good response, and I wish I could remember what it was, but I remember making a mental note of that he finished. His head did that kind of punctuation bob where it kind of comes to a rest, instead of going left and right. He threw out that hand, that kind of weird karate jab. And then he quickly threw out the tongue. The tongue did the lips, and then it was. And again, folks, none of that is substantive.
No.
But in America, post-1960s, we're making decisions on who should lead the country as much by appearance as anything else. Let's be honest. It's one of the reasons Chris Christie will never be president. We're just never going to vote. It's not his fault. I'm not judging him. No. We're not voting for a fat guy.
Think about last hour. We were talking about Gerald Ford, and you pointed out.
Well, wait a minute. A guy that fat. I'm sorry. I forgot. We just elected one a couple times ago.
But you look at the idea of Gerald Ford, and Ford was an NCAA athlete, but he's most known for falling down, a physical frailty. That's it. Same thing that we talk about with Biden, that, oh my gosh, he's tripping, he's falling down. Does that mean that Biden can't run the free world? Not necessarily, but it does talk about his physical stamina, but that's what we focus on. It is a public, kind of a judgment. It is superficial.
That's right.
And it is fair. It is absolutely fair, though.
I think so, too.
But it's not fair at the same time.
So to the texter who said, my husband just said, this is what passes for political discourse, ? No. It's part of the conversation. It has to be part of the conversation. These people aren't showing up dressed like they're doing a morning drive time show in Denver with their Fetterman hoodie on. I mean,
exactly. And again, to be fair to us in the conversation, we are at the beginning of talking about
we're just talking about
which it would be the superficial stuff. It would be the stuff about here's what they did when they came on the stage. Here's what they looked like. All the beginning stuff. During the last debate, we threw rocks at the elongated drone entrance that went on for like 2.5 minutes. That was totally self-serving. So
It
yeah,
was just
the
interesting.
beginning judgments are absolutely going to be superficial.
So
and we own that, and we're happy.
we
with
also,
that.
and
Yeah.
by the way, we have sound folks.
Yeah.
And also, if you're going to criticize whatever this lead in is, as this is political discourse, prove to me you spent the time to watch the debate by calling in and having a conversation about it. You can't not watch the debate and then criticize my reflections on the debate I watched. You just can't do that.
And we've got some other stuff. People saying some silly
But we've
stuff.
got some stuff on there. The other thing that I've noticed, and you can't help but pick up on these things, is Vivek, aside from the substance, and we have some stuff that he's involved in too. And I think he was much stronger in the first half of the debate than he was in the second half of the debate. I thought the second half, it kind of fell apart for him a bit. He was obviously given a line that he thought was killer. And if you look at social media, many people thought it was. It got stepped on a bit by the hosts and some other folks, but we can talk about that in a moment. But he repeated it again, like he was trying to get his dig in on Ron and Nikki at the same time. Nikki had a great response. It was footwear related, and there's a tie-in, by the way, back here to current events, including our own soon-to-be retiring from Congress, Ken Buck. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I am perplexed and bothered by Vivek, a multimillionaire's approach to this, especially with that finger, man. That right finger sticks, not even straight up, it sticks up and has this curve, and he brings it up all the time to make these points. It makes me wonder now. I got to go back and look at what I do when I talk publicly, because these little things are starting to bother the hell out of me. And he has this weird enunciation that he does at the end of certain words that end with nah or like, I don't know how to describe it. These things are concerning to me. Now, he's a well-spoken dude. He's clearly a smart guy. I still see him as Billy Blaze, the idea guy. I mean, he's just a dude that runs around and has ideas. The other thing that I think he does is he rips off Charlie Kirk, because yesterday when I was driving home from the station, I listen, man, I'm a product consumer just like you are. So I put on Charlie. I didn't get out of here. Did you find that sound, by the way, Bill? I didn't. I don't know what time I got in the car. So I'm guessing 10-ish or something after I finish up some things here with Billy. And maybe it was 10:15. And I turn on the radio and I'm listening to Charlie. He's talking about the debate. And he says things like this.
And they don't actually want to talk about some of the most obvious reasons why we are losing. It's because we have a loser running the RNC. Now, I'll be very honest with you. I was so disappointed by the lack of conservative grassroots energy when I went to Dana Point. Why is it that in our conservative movement politics, we put up with losing time and time and time again? American sports has real accountability because they care about winning. We do not. We don't. We say, but Ron is such a nice person. Yeah, but she's a loser. Oh, but she's a nice person. She's really sweet. It's what I hear time and time again. We are not going to win in 2024 if the current leadership of the RNC remains, period.
Now, there is that was Charlie Kirk yesterday on our own 710 KNUS. Charlie, and we couldn't play all the sound because you'd have to get the whole show. You'd have to listen to the whole show. And you can go back and podcast this thing, and you should. But then he goes into an attack on the actual debate itself in two ways. One, he says, what a giant waste of time, echoing what Donald Trump is going to say here. And he had his rally about, according to Alexa, 25 miles away from the debate. He comes on and says, what a giant waste of time. We should be focusing these dollars on trying to win the presidency in these other important states, rather than wasting them on these candidates who simply aren't ever going to be the nominee for president. He then shifts and attacks the actual debate format itself and goes after the moderators and says, why won't they put some other people? And I can't remember if he specifically referenced Tucker Carlson or someone else, but that was his point, was we've got these three, and he left Hugh Hewitt alone. He didn't go after Hugh, but he's like, we've got Kristen Welker and who was the other guy? And I just said his name. The main guy for NBC. Yeah. Billy has made this African-American gentleman a white guy by constantly referring to him as Lawrence O'Donnell.
Yes. And I have to explain that. There is a glitch inside my twisted brain that I know that he's the other L guy, but I don't know. And every time I see him, it pops up. I know it's the wrong name. It says the wrong name in my mind, but I can't delete the file. It's broken. Some sort of lock on it. Can't change
I found it.
Mad.
It's Tom Brokaw. No, I'm kidding. It's Lester Holt, who I've just now with this same search discovered makes $7 million a year. I mean, no wonder he's got a smile on his face as he's getting trashed. But this is the point. Charlie talks about this stuff. And so I listened to it on my way to the next thing that I have to go do yesterday. And then I'm watching the debate. And lo and behold, there's Vivek Ramaswamy with an early answer. And this is what he says, Billy.
Mr. Ramaswamy, let me turn to you. Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here. And I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer to the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you.
That's gutsy. It's bold. I imagine there's a lot of us out there that are listening thinking, man, I wish the party was doing better too. And frankly, there are guns being turned on Ronna McDaniel from the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. But that wasn't new. And then the other parts, we couldn't play his whole answer because the guy goes on and he don't stop. But he's very well spoken. He got into the exact same issue in almost the exact same way that Charlie Kirk did, calling out the nature of this particular debate, the format, saying, Tucker, who was the other one? Roger. Yeah, he said, thank you, Billy. The Tucker was the easy one. He said, why don't we have Joe Rogan up here? Why don't we have Elon Musk up here asking these questions? And I think it's clever. I think it's a great question in a way, because we just defer to the left-leaning big media folks other than the Fox Newses. And I guess depending upon where you are in the MAGA universe, you might see them as left-leaning as well. But it felt to me and sounded to me so consistent with what Charlie Kirk had just said hours earlier. I'm like, somebody's listening to Charlie Kirk. This is the influence that Chuck Kirk has, even though Charlie's like 21 years old or something. And Chuck is really the Jimmy Sengenberger of the national level. I mean, Jimmy has that kind of influence as well. But it sounded to me like he was just sort of copying what Charlie Kirk had said. Here's a texter. Vivek rips off OAN and all that fringe stuff all the time. Dude can't say something that isn't a conspiracy theory or tinfoil hat-like. Maybe that's true. That's less an issue to me than the fact that it sounds like he is listening to the folks that MAGA listens to and then saying those things, repeating them back. When Charlie says them, I feel like, okay, this is a largely original thought. I mean, Charlie's that kind of a guy. And then Vivek shows up to basically put his own little spin on it. Someone else texts in, oh, come on, the debate was on NBC. Of course, they will have NBC moderators. Yeah, that's true. It's on NBC. But I think the bigger question, texter, and I'm going to take up Vivek's cause in this and Charlie's too, and that is, why do we let it be on NBC and do it that way? Why don't we have a debate that is actually staffed by Republicans who aren't looking to plant seeds for answers that'll be used in the future, either in the primary or the general, and just trying to basically scuttle the public perception of Republicans in the nation? I get that part. I think part of what Vivek is saying is, why did the RNC agree to a debate on NBC? And then he went after, the Russia hoax, and he made a deal of that as well. But he also had some zingers. I didn't ask Billy to pull this music, but if you Google biggest lines of the night from last night, one of the ones that you're for sure going to see, and I think Vivek got ripped off in a way, because his end line, which was the killer line, got a bit stepped on by, I can't remember if it was Lester Holt or Kristen Welker, but the gist of his point was he was trying to get simultaneous digs at Nikki and Ron DeSantis. And I'll tell you the setup. By the way, in no way do I believe that he wrote this line. It's not that he isn't funny or clever. It was just too good for anything else I've heard come out of his mouth thus far. But he ends up saying, describing Nikki Haley as, hey, he goes, something, something. We have Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels on this stage, and there's 2 of them here right now. That is clearly a shot at Nikki Haley, calling her Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels. And it's a shot at Ron DeSantis, who's got this weird social sort of viral thing going on, questioning whether or not he wears lifts in his shoes. I mean, it's super clever. It's funny, but it didn't, in my opinion, didn't get the delivery that it deserved because it got stepped on by the hosts and whatnot, the moderators. Meanwhile, Nikki Haley has just a great response right away. She doesn't need anyone to write for her. She comes back and says, I wear 5-inch heels, which is a great B-slap to Vivek, and then says, and mine aren't for fashion, they're for ammunition. And I thought, maybe not the word she was looking for, but I get her point. I thought it was a great response. Of course, Ron says nothing about the suggestion that he's wearing lifts in his shoes. None of these things, in my opinion, are the substantive things that these guys ultimately get into. And we have sound on that as well, because there's some big stuff that's discussed. But I would like to hear from you, your impressions as we work our way through this. So here's what we're going to do. You call in at 303-696-1971. It very well could be that you're going to get a busy signal right now because the lines are full. But I'll tell you as people drop off, I need to hear your impressions on this, because otherwise I leave here with my own biased view of what took place. 303-696-1971. There's also a bias out there, folks, in the public against men. Men with receding hairlines, with thinning hair. You've seen it. Some of you have felt it, and you've probably asked yourself a question. Why me? 2, who can I sue for this? And then the 3, the big one is, what can I do about this? Now, you can either go the way my brother did, which is to just shave it bald. And of course, he's an incredibly good looking man. I can't do that. I've seen my head bald from when I was at airborne school. And this was when I was younger. It does not look good. And not everybody's head does. And if you're like, I'm not ready to go down that road, I want that appearance and that feel of being youthful and healthy. And that's what people do when they judge you about your hairline. So the thing that you can do, the smartest, bestest, quickest thing that you can do is to reach out to our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration. Now, when I talk to you about Advanced Hair Restoration, I'm telling you that these folks want your business, not just because it's business, but because they like the idea that you're out there wearing something that they did and knowing that it's all you. There's nothing synthetic about this process. It's all your own natural hair. That's what's incredible. This isn't like chia hair or something where you rub it's not like that at all. This process has been so successful for so long. You've got to check them out. First, go to advancedhair.com. Easy place to start. Look at the process. Look at how they roll this thing out and their success rate. I'd say to do whatever the Yelp equivalent is. Google the feedback from folks that have done this. The pictures before and after. And I know folks that have done this, okay? This thing works. If you call today, 720-459-HAIR, have the conversation with them about whether you qualify. And I wish I could tell you every single person ever under every single circumstance qualifies. I don't believe that, right? And that's just not how it works. But if you qualify, and you likely do, you get $250 off the treatment, $250 off. But wait, there's more. You also get an additional cost-free 250 hair grafts that starts you down the road, and it starts the very next day towards growing your own hair back and feeling like $1 trillion. That's advancedhair.com, and their number 720-459-HAIR. That's hair, the hair, not the rabbit, HAIR. When we come back, it's going to be Josh and Frank. Oh, we just had a line come open at 303-696-1971. You can fill it. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. A couple of the texts that are in here. Didn't she, being Haley, say weapon, not ammunition? I don't think so. I'll ask Billy while we're doing all this voodoo to take a listen. I'm about 100% positive she said, I wear them for ammunition. Had she said weapon, it wouldn't have rung a bell other than to say, hey, that was a great comeback. Here's another one. Vivek lost me when he said we should give some area in the Ukraine to Russia to end the Ukraine war. He said that again last night when he was crap talking the support for Ukraine and then claiming credit for being on the right side of this thing and asking all the other candidates to now change their positions to join him. He said those areas that Putin has taken over are Russian-speaking cultural areas that weren't even part of Ukraine. I can't remember when he said, basically signing up for the idea that we should just give them part of Ukraine because this is also the guy, again, maybe the worst candidate on foreign policy on the stage. This is the guy who also said, I would let China know hands off of Taiwan until I'm reelected in 2028. Almost verbatim. 303-696-1971. Frank, you're on 710 KNUS. Frank, did you watch the debate?
I did, George. And let me be the first to welcome you to the MAGA cult of the Republican Party.
What did you think last night?
Sounds like you're turning, man. Sounds like you're turning. I've been waiting.
What did you think last night?
Oh, a waste of time basically. But Vivek, he really embodies what people like me, and there's only about 80 million of us, so we're not. I mean, we are a cult.
It's a minority, sure.
What we think, what we think. We are so.
Is it the substance of it or the way he approaches it? Sort of that in your face, I'm calling you out. We're a bunch of losers. We've had it. Is it that? Is it the style, the Trump-like style, or is it the substance?
After 50 years of milquetoast Republicans, I'm all about in your face at this point. I'm sorry, but I'm just tired of it. I want Republicans to be Republicans.
Is that the Republican model? You got to be in someone's faces.
Well, that's the MAGA model. It's not. By the way, also welcome to being a rhino, George, because rhino now is not Trump enough. It used to be not conservative. Now it's not Trump enough, and I think it's awesome.
Well, by the way, it's still not conservative enough in this way. Billy found some social media stuff. This is going to be for another show when we get him back on. These some of these gun groups out there, these extreme gun groups, are taking shots at our own David Williams, suggesting he's a rhino because of that gun-free zone centennial dinner. But that's not a MAGA
thing. Republicans do. They beat each other up.
I know. You're right.
Of absurdity.
You're right.
And that's what you're doing too.
Oh, I'm not beating up anyone, man. We're having a conversation about this to try to get to. In fact, these are people who are standing up saying, please criticize, scrutinize, challenge me. And then when you get to like me, support me. So, this is what we're doing, right?
I've been trying to say this for years now. There's only two options coming out of the 24 election. Option number one is Trump. Option number two is a lying, cheating, stealing, baby-killing communist. That's the Democrats
put up in my mouth. There's got to be
those are the two options. I'm sorry. We don't know what the communist Democrats are going to put up. It might be Biden. It seems hard to believe, but who knows?
Do you feel like you could trust Vivek behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office?
It's not even a valid question because it's not going to happen. He's not going anywhere.
I'm certain for most of these people, if not every single one of them, it's not going to happen. But he's running for president. He has significant support. He gets to be on the stage and say a bunch of stuff. Is he the kind of guy that you could throw a vote for to say, I trust this 38-year-old guy to be president of the United States?
Well, if Trump has a stroke or dies or something, I'm voting for him. But if Trump's in there, it ain't happening for anybody else. I'm like Billy when it comes to stuff. Like Billy drives Mercedes. I drive a Mercedes. When I need a car, I don't even go to any other dealers. I just go to the Mercedes dealer. And same thing with Trump. He is the guy, like it or not. He's the guy.
Can MAGA win this time? Because since 2016, it's kind of failed everywhere.
I had a little bit of hope with HH yesterday. It gave me a little bit of hope. But my question though is, what were those other 40% voting for? It just boggles the mind, George.
I don't know, man. I look at the stage. I told Billy off air. I look at this stage and I'm like, who can I picture behind the desk talking to me? and substance matters too, behind the desk in the Oval Office, behind the Resolute desk, because it's always going to be dire, bad, something horrible news. And who can I pick?
On some bad times here, bud.
Yeah, but who can I picture doing that? And who would I trust? Like, who could earn my trust? And it's a short list based off of who's up here right now.
You have a huge, just by saying that, George, you have a big load to lift there, because first of all, probably none of them is the answer. But I remember
on the trust issue or on the competence issue.
On I guess it really is not a trust or competence, the leadership issue, because leaders are defined by the times. And I remember this from years back when, you can take anybody, put them in an office, and if they're not challenged to be a leader, a lot of times they don't become a leader. But once they are challenged by the times and become a leader, look what happened to W on 9/11. Even though W did screw things up afterwards, he became a leader that day. He stood up on top of the pile and he said, "You know what? We're going to go take some names." He kicked some butt, and that's what we did. And so I don't know if that's a valid question, George.
Can I ask on the trust thing? It matters in this way. And again, this is a small example. Billy's got some sound that's out there. Crosstown, 25 miles according to Alexa away. Donald Trump has his rally. And this is just a small thing, but it's a thing that keeps getting added to a bunch of other small things that makes a mountain of small things that all, in my opinion, cause me to question dude's credibility. He's talking about the crowd he's talking to. Billy, do you have that sound? Well, Billy gave me the thumbs up and then apparently gave me the radio middle finger.
Thing had the,
so anyway,
was, silenced. Hang on a sec here.
Hold on. Forgive me, Frank. He's going to play
It's
this.
a history of politics. So therefore, do you think we did the right thing by not participating? Somebody said, one of the dumber ones, he doesn't have the courage to stand up. Well, listen, I'm standing in front of tens of thousands of people right now, and it's on television. That's a hell of a lot harder to do than a debate.
Now, the interesting thing about that is, and you may have read this, Frank, because you're a well-informed dude, the place he was speaking had a capacity of 5,200, and it wasn't completely full. And so when he says things like that, same thing with the inauguration, it's a nothing fact, like it shouldn't matter. But he says things like that over and over again. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Why not just enjoy the success you have? Why inflate it into something stupid and disprovable?
You bring up a good point, George. He's the first politician in my lifetime to ever lie. Yes, you're right. Don't vote for him. Vote for the communist.
Listen,
vote for the communist.
I don't think that's the only option. My point is I'm trying to look at these people who had the courage to take the stage and get the hard questions asked. And some of them weren't that hard, frankly. But to try to figure out who is the person that can lead us through what you and I agree upon are looming dark days ahead. We know it ain't the guy that's in there now.
The communists have no hope. The Republican, who most likely will be Trump unless he dies or has a stroke or something, will have a hope.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm
sorry, but that's what's coming down to. And since we're talking about Billy, could you stop trying to compare noodle arm girly men with 300-pound Neanderthals?
Who? I have no idea. Now you've done it because Billy just put his ears on.
What was that, Frank? What was that? I don't understand.
Oh boy, here we go.
It gets a little tedious having to listen to you compare.
Who's the noodle arm
girly man with 300-pound Neanderthals?
What noodle arm? I don't understand. I understand that you think you're being.
Players.
I understand you're being clever, but tell me the reference.
Soccer players to football players. There's no point in comparing them.
There's only one true football sport, but that's okay. I understand why you're using the wrong word.
Yeah.
But tell me, what do you mean there's no point in comparing them? Why can't you compare them? You understand that in high school soccer, there are more career-ending injuries than there are in football?
See, this is just
gosh.
Billy has gone out and found facts and stuck them in that shelf in his brain. It's hard to compete.
You're going to sit here and say that those players, they're not physical. They have more injuries.
They're a bunch of girly men. I think
in what way?
I think it's
in what way?
Frank, you and Billy are hijacking the conversation.
Frank,
we are talking about
I understand
the debate.
that, but in what way? In what way are they girly men?
They're just girly men, dude. I mean, it should be illegal for men to play soccer.
Okay, so that's it. So basically, all you've got are insults. I'm going to take my headphones off and sit here because this isn't a conversation. All you want to do is throw insults. And guess what? I have 4 kids. I can throw insults as good, if not better than you, but I'm not going to do that because this goes nowhere.
And now
so
you know what's going to happen. And Frank, by the way, thank you for the phone calls always. We're going to start getting calls. Frank's line is open about soccer. It's going to be about a comparison between soccer and football. And then even I will stop listening at that point. I don't care about that. I do care about who may be the president of the United States. And even if you think it's unlikely, one of these 5 people has a much better shot than you and I do. Maybe not a much better shot, but a better shot than you and I do. I want to have this conversation on the substance. Tim Scott said some stuff. Haley said some stuff. And I'm interested in getting your feedback on it. We're getting text. I would love to get your feedback at 303-696-1971. And Josh, I promise you're first up when we come back, and we'll continue this conversation as long as you're willing to have it, because this is about the future of America. It's not just about the debate. It's bigger than that. Ultra Botanica, you don't know that name, but you do know Ultra Cur. Ultra Cur is that curcumin-based, it's like an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-aging. This is a patented all-natural product that the good folks at Ultra Now, getultranow.com, Get Ultra Now, all 3 words, getultranow.com, have put together. And this thing has rolled out to great acclaim and, frankly, great success. The reason we know it is when I tell you, you get this product at the natural grocers, you've been doing it. Folks from the show here and listening to the show have gone out to get it. And it's there a lot, but a bunch of them have said, I got there. They said they were already out. They have to wait for another shipment. That's how popular this product is. 3-day free supply gives you the opportunity to try this on for size. Now, Billy and I got the longer period of time for that. I wasn't actually part of the study that they did, but what they found is people within 48 hours, 50% of people were already experiencing some form of relief. And within that same group, half of them, which means a quarter of the overall, if you do the math, started experiencing relief within 2 hours. 3-day supply is yours for the asking, and you have to ask. Go to your natural grocers. Go to your vitamin manager. They keep them behind the counter so one person doesn't take them all, because they will. Say, I'd like my 3-day supply. I'd like a 3-day supply for my husband, my wife, my friend, the postman, whoever it is. Try it out. You're going to be hooked, and then go back and get the rest of the stuff that you need to keep this thing going. Billy and I did it. Works for us. It doesn't make all the pain go away from me, but it makes how long it lasts a lot less. I just can't explain it better than that. It mitigates against how long I feel bad after I do a run. Check them out at getultranow.com. When we come back, it's going to be Josh, everybody else, also the texts that are on here. And we've even got people still weighing in, not just on the debate attire, but my attire as well. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Josh, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the debate last night. As much as I enjoy watching, people screech at each other, it was great.
There was some of that for sure.
Yeah, I love the conversation about high heels and whether the world's going to hell in a handbasket. It's great. So, for me, I think I think we got to find a way to get this debate platform situation resolved. As far as
what would you like to see?
The amount of, I think for me, when the problem is that almost every single debate covers the exact same topics. Obviously, those are the things that are happening in the world, so I get it. But at the same time, for the third straight debate, you hear most of the exact same boilerplate answers. So it's kind of like you're not really learning anything too new about the candidates. I think you're seeing the candidates kind of move and adjust maybe the personality, whatever they kind of see in the polls. You're to this, you're to that. So maybe be more lively or do more of this. And so maybe you see a little bit of shift there. I think you've seen that a lot with Vivek. Obviously, Vivek, that first debate was talking about how he's, the only basically clean candidate. He doesn't have any donors. He's not beholden to those donors. And he's bashing the other people. Then the second debate, he's trying to make peace with the other people and say, we're all up here, we're all together, and he just kind of try to pivot there. And then here he's attacking the Republican Party. And so you see those things kind of happen. That's really the only difference. I will say I definitely think Ron DeSantis had the best night. It's not even close. I think Nikki Haley had I think she came in second, but I think that she represents more of like a Bush wing of the party, and I think her kind of presidency kind of represent more of a Bush style presidency. So I don't think there's anything.
Do you think either of them, one, have a chance in the primary, which is probably the bigger hurdle, and in the general?
I think out of the two, I think Ron DeSantis has the best chance, and for a few reasons. One, and I want to also address one of the things that Frank said earlier on the last call, but. I think Ron DeSantis has the best chance because I think he is the closest thing to a middle ground between establishment Republicans and MAGA. For me, well, not for me, I think this is just kind of common sense looking at his record. He has the most flawless record on the stage. I mean, that's one thing that's why they keep talking about his heels, his boots. You can't attack him on his record. What he's done in Florida, he took the most crucial purple state in the country and turned it deep, deep red. And he won a historic.
What's the reason he just sputters? And I mean, in the polls, and why can't he get traction? Why isn't he getting distance from the rest of the field instead of feeling Nikki breathing down his neck?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of things. I think one, I'm somebody who I'm a big DeSantis fan. I think he stumbled out of the gates. I think his candidacy kind of came out at a really wrong time. It was right in the middle of whenever Trump was going through those first fresh part of the indictments. It was hard to gain traction in the media. I don't think his team handled it well at all. I think the biggest issue he's having is finding that his where his base lives, right? Because I think most of his base lives.
Josh, let me say this: keep calling the show, man. I love you've got some good insights and thoughts here. Keep doing this. I love these conversations. But when you hear the music, that's Billy basically signaling to me I have 15 seconds left. Thanks for the call, man. Listen, Corey, I'm going to get you on. If you stick around or call back after the top of I'm going to get you on. We're going to keep this conversation going. Can any of these folks win? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
That's the choice we face. Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first? Or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
All right,
In which
Mr.
case, we've got two of them on stage tonight.
Ramaswamy, thank you.
Yes, I'd first like to say they're 5-inch heels, and I don't wear them unless you can run in them.
We've got two of you on stage.
The second thing that I will say is I wear heels. They're not for a fashion statement. They're for ammunition.
Yeah, that was Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley going back and forth. Just such an interesting thing. First off, I do think that Nikki probably meant I wear them as a weapon. I don't know what the ammunition part means. The running part, 5 inches, I thought that was clever. But the point is this, man, she's unflappable when it comes to that. You know, she's got a little bit of that Iron Lady thing to her, which I like. But Vivek had this great line that he was trying to deliver, and you could tell, man, you know, Lester Holt stepped on it once. He then tried to jam it back in that setting right there, and Lester Holt stepped on it again. I don't think it was intentional on Lester's part, but it was like, I can imagine Vivek going back in the after action, the post game, and saying, damn, that one I just waited too long to deliver that punch. But it wasn't substantive. It wasn't awesome. I'm interested in getting your feedback on this. 303-696-1971. I promise to honor the callers that call in, and we're going to do that for our next caller. He's a friend of the show, a friend of mine. His name is Corey. Corey, how are you?
Hey, good morning, George. It's nice to talk with you. I did enjoy the debate last night. I thought it was probably one of the best ones they had. I just think they had too many people on the stage. The two guys to the right shouldn't be there. I thought
who should not be there that you would get rid of?
Oh, Tim Scott and Vivek. Vivek just needs to go back to the children's table and let the adults talk. The guy has no chance. Now the question of statistics is, but he's just like Frank. He was supposed to be a bomb thrower. Just wants to be angry, and all the angry, folks want, but he has no policy experience, none whatsoever. His foreign policy, I agree. Nikki nailed him completely when he said how the Putin and the Chinese guy are, salivating at the chance of him being president. The guy he wants to give up, just like the Sudetenland. He wants to give up other countries to people and cave into dictatorship. He has not learned from history. So he shouldn't even be there. I thought Christie had probably his best performance. I enjoyed listening to him. I think he has a lot of interesting things to say. I'm a Nikki fan. I think she is the adult at the table. And this is what I want to say. Number one is, my biggest goal is not getting my candidate elected. I want a Republican elected, right? So we have to have, number one goal is to defeat Biden, right?
Yeah.
So do we want to throw up, a battered target of Trump, or are we going to try and actually reach to the middle and try and find out, how can we win? And if you just go to the far extremes of each party, you're not going to be able to get the middle to vote for you. So who's going to be attractable? Who's going to be the middle that could like? I think Nikki hit a home run last night. She talked about the issue of abortion. If you don't think the Democrats are going to use this issue of abortion to ram these issues down Republicans' throats, you have another thing coming. And she's the only one that can talk on the subject in a way that makes sense. It's common sense. And I think that moms and soccer moms in the middle are going to appreciate.
What did you talk about what you heard her say in the position? Because I've heard her say this now a couple of times. What is it you think that is attractive about it to the broader voting electorate?
I think it's practical. I mean, the Republicans for years have said, hey, Roe v. Wade. Okay, fine. You got what you want, but they weren't prepared for it. Bringing it back to the states means that people get to vote. And that means the Democrats have been saying, the Republicans are going to ban abortion. They're going to take away rights. So everybody's been taking whatever the Democrats are giving to them. Like here in Colorado, you got the legislature doing a crazy, crazy thing, but they're allowed to do it out of fear, and nobody wants to check back on it. So, I mean, she has a common sense practical. What can you get 60 votes, in the Senate on? What can you do practically that will save as many babies as you can, but yet not judge and criminalize, women who seek abortions? And I think that resonates with middle America. The vast majority of Americans like that message. And I'm going to tell you, all you purists out there You are the bane of the Republican Party. All you people who are pure Second Amendment, pure anti-abortion at all costs, hey, good luck. How's that working for you? You know, as Dr. Phil said.
Well, I think
not.
I told Billy off air when we were talking about this, and these conversations don't end when we go off air. We just keep chatting about them, some more heated than others. But I said her approach strikes me as one that is an attempt to be pragmatic as opposed to one of just pure pro-life principle. And for those who are invested in the pro-life position as a matter of faith, that's tough, right? Because it's hard to be pragmatic with your faith, you know? And so I get that could create a problem, but I've always asked the question, if you could prevent 80% of abortions, would you agree to a compromise on that? And that apparently is a much harder answer than I thought, because, you know, there are folks out there who are like, no, man, you can't compromise at all. It's murder. How could you compromise on 20% murder? Something like that. And so I get where she's coming from, but Corey, to your point, it doesn't matter what we think about abortion. Doesn't matter. It's what the voters are going to think about abortion. And all you got to do is take a look at Kentucky, Virginia, and Ohio and go, oh, damn. If we're just going to stick to the pro-life all the time, every time thing, enjoy being in the minority.
Yep. You're absolutely right. It's these purists, so I call them. Anybody starts using the term rhino, you know, or establishment Republicans, they're just throwing labels because they don't have any intellectual argument to make. And all they can do is throw bombs and names. Those purists in the party, I'm sorry, you are the bane of the problems in Colorado. You are causing Colorado to turn deep, deep blue. You are not going to win. And I think the Republican Party in Colorado has no way of winning until all these purists, I think another 20 years when they're all dead, maybe we'll have some younger Republicans who actually wake up, understand pragmatism, and can move us forward. But in the meantime, all these people in charge of the party who are purists, you're the problem. You got to get out of the way.
Best guess for the next debate, I can't even tell you where or when that is. What does the stage look like?
Oh, I'd like to see DeSantis, Nikki, and I enjoy Christie. I think he has things to say. Those three. And of course, if Trump ever decides to show up, but I like to see just those three.
I think, independent of what I'd like to see, I think Tim Scott is going to have to step down at some point here. He may be holding on for South Carolina. You know what I mean? But and maybe Iowa's his all in as well. I think that probably Chris Christie's just about done as well. I think Vivek's in it for the longer haul because he keeps generating all the numbers he needs, including at the polls and at the bank, to justify being on the stage. I think this could pretty rapidly become just the three of them. And here's the other thing. I don't know if I'm being crazy in saying this. If Ron DeSantis comes in third in Iowa, I think it's over. I think he gets Scott Walkered and he's done.
Oh, interesting. I just ask you, why is Nikki, surging in the polls? Why is she doing so well? I think she has the best chance of reaching middle America. And if we're actually serious about winning, it's not a question of who looks best behind the resolute desk, George. I mean, I get that. But who can middle America say, yes, that person can be a strong leader? And I think Nikki has, does it for me.
I also say this, it's just a matter of time before America joins the rest of the Western world and elects to its top government position a woman. That's going to happen. Our choices thus far seem to have been Hillary Clinton, Geraldine Ferraro, Kamala Harris, maybe a Michelle Obama. Wouldn't Nikki Haley be the absolute perfect choice, independent of gender, by the way? But I'm just saying, if you're going to have a first and someone's going to have to be the first, she ought to be the one.
But it's not just a question of, wouldn't it be great, just like Obama, in my opinion, wouldn't it be great to have a black president?
No, I'm not saying that at all. Yeah, no.
We got the term competent, right? And we want to like great to have a woman president. Let's have one who's competent and has great leadership skills, right? I mean, why not? I mean, can you imagine, what do you tell all the feminists out there? You just take away any argument they have as far as trying to back Biden? I mean, it proves them the hypocrites that they are. It's not a question of women. It's a question you have to be a liberal woman to get their support. So I think that she answers, and the fact that she's not purebred white, from Massachusetts or something, I think she answers a lot of the ticks. She has a lot. I think we can get the minority vote. I think we can reach the middle. I think she ticks off a lot of boxes that no other candidate can do.
I think that there are going to be voters out there who are demographic voters, and that's a problem for me because I've never been a demographic voter. That's always been like way down the list. I just want the best. She strikes me as someone who, at least on the international stage, gets it. She's been there. She's done that. She also has guts, man. I mean, like, she is undeterred.
Yeah.
She doesn't, I mean, none of these guys seem incredibly flappable, which is good. But she doesn't, I don't know how she engages. She gives as good as she gets. I think she's tough. I don't know, though, if any of them end up becoming the nominee. At the end of the day, unless the polls are completely bonkers, it's going to be DJT.
Yeah, I hear you, but we just know what's going to happen, right? All these legal problems, all these things coming up, all these distractions. I mean, what can Trump? I mean, honestly, they're hamstringing him from being able to, carry on a campaign, and he's taken so much flack, that I get it. A lot of people like Trump because they said he deserves it because I don't like what they're doing to him. I'd like to support him, and therefore I think we should elect him a president because of everything they've done to him. I get that attitude. I just think the policies are the main thing to me. I love his policies, but I think we can bring somebody in who can do the same policies, that doesn't bring in the baggage, isn't the damaged candidate, and can actually carry through and be campaigning with all these distractions. And I think it can't reach the middle. I think Trump's not going to be able to reach the middle as much as people think that he is. I just think that he's going to be damaged, and a lot of these women, and soccer moms are not going to vote for him. So you need to find somebody who can. And I'm tired of losing. I think we need to find what candidate has the best chance of winning. And to me, it's Nikki.
I think everybody actually agrees with that. Corey, my friend, thank you for the call. Corey's line is open. I just think some people think the best choice, because he has the best chance of winning, maybe the only chance of winning, is the DJT. Corey's line is open at 303-696-1971. Frank and others that are calling, and I promise I'll get to you. Just one second. I'm not even going to cut away for break. I just want to tell you that pain that you're feeling, if it's from watching the debate, I get it. I thought it was an okay debate, a good debate. Probably too many people on the stage, but I also get what Josh is saying too. It feels like we're just going over some of the same ground. Maybe not in the questions, but certainly in the answers. I want things that are targeted enough that there are genuine distinctions. And we'll play some sound here in a minute. There were some distinctions, largely between Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley. But that pain may be in your neck, it may be in your hips, your elbows, your knee. It doesn't matter where it is. If the warranty feels like it's running out on your parts, or you've had an injury that just creates a chronic pain issue that nothing seems to make go away, out of all the options medicine will throw at you, grin and bear it, stiff upper lip, take a whole bunch of pain meds, change the way you live your life so you don't inflame it, or go under the knife so an orthopedic surgeon can do the voodoo that they do, followed by a whole bunch of rehab and downtime. Why not add to those crappy choices a great one? And that is to call our friends at QC Kinetics at 303-900-8986. Why, you ask? They have local medical professionals at that number, ready to answer all of your questions about what they do. And what they do, and they do it coast to coast, border to border, at the highest levels, is regenerative medicine. That is using you to help fix you. It's needlework, and it's one in and one out. That's it. And then you leave the place. You're on your own 2 feet. There is no downtime. There is no extended rehabilitation time. You get back to enjoying life as pain-free as you can. Check them out. Give them a call. Test them. 303-900-8986. 303-900-8986. You can also check them out at qckinetics.com. That's the letter Q, the letter C, kinetics, ends in an X.com. Let's get right back to the phone lines. Frank, you're on 710 KNUS. Frank, what do you think?
Hey, George. Hey, the one thing that I thought was kind of as a theme for the whole debate that I thought was healthy is that it seemed that the candidates are getting, it used to be where they were trying to move more and more Trumpy or more and more MAGA-y. They were steering their rudders that direction. They seem to be finding their own voice a little bit and steering away from that. And I think if anything Tuesday showed is that the country doesn't have any real stomach for MAGA. They just don't. They're over it. And so I think that's a healthy thing for the Republican Party, and I think it gives them a puncher's chance in the general election. And that's important.
I want to believe that, Frank, I do. And maybe we're getting there. But the very first question of the entire debate, you'll recall, was about Trump. I mean, they led the entire thing off with Trump, why you? And this guy is always out there, and I get why. Dude's crushing it in the polls. Now, in the past, we were told polls can't be trusted. Polls can't be trusted. They predicted a Hillary win, and look who ended up winning. Thank God. I understand that, but this many polls this wrong for this long a period of time, I don't know, man. I do think the guy is way ahead.
Here's a prediction, and I think, I don't know if this could come to fruition, but I'm trying to look into the crystal ball and see. I think eventually Trump's going to have to engage the candidate or candidates in some sort of a debate platform. And I don't think that the Trump debate strategy of just calling names, throwing bombs, acting like a house ape is going to work against a Nikki Haley. One thing I took away from last night was that Nikki Haley is smart, and she thinks on her feet very effectively. She didn't slice and she didn't hook that answer on the heels response, but she hit it straight. And I thought that it wasn't perfect, but it was close. And that told me that she's engaged and smart. And I don't know if those other candidates really have that. I think that's where DeSantis falls down a bit, is that I don't get the impression DeSantis is in the moment or able to be in the moment. I think he's a little bit robotic, and I think his responses are robotic. And you know, Chris Christie, I think, has an ability to think on his feet too. I think Vivek does as well, but I think that's where DeSantis is missing things. I don't think he's engaged.
I'm taken with what Josh says, and I think he's right. If you look at that dude on paper and how he's been as governor, other than the stuff that garnered some controversy left of center on what he's done with the LGBTQ stuff in Disney, dude's been a fantastic governor for Florida, and there's no doubt he's had a hand in making it far more red than it was when he got there. That's all true, but there is something about the delivery that just feels off a bit, and it shouldn't be that way, but we're lying to ourselves if we think it's not an issue.
No, it is an issue, and he's the one who, look, if you ever get Trump engaged, which he's going to have to be eventually here, he can't just run and hide all the time. He's going to have to engage with whoever the front runner or front runners is, and if that is DeSantis, who do you think Trump is going to attack immediately? He's the weakling in this group, and I think that Trump always goes. He's a typical bully. He picks on the little kid, and that's DeSantis. He can't do that to Nikki Haley and get away with it and look good. He's going to have to actually engage, and I think that might be a landmine for him, because I think people are over this. I think people are over seeing him try to just literally act like a house ape in these debates. He's got to actually think and debate at some point. He can't just call names and act stupid.
I get to though, a dude with that kind of a lead, why show up and play? Do you know what I mean? Unless it's going to matter. I also agree with your take, though, that at some point the him versus Nikki thing is a problem. He's going to end up having to resort to blood coming out of other parts of her, or you're a nasty woman or something like that. I don't think it plays well anymore. I don't think that's going to work with her.
I thought the exact same thing. I thought the exact same exchange that he had with what's her name. I thought, look, Trump can't get away with that with Nikki Haley, and it's going to come off very poorly if he does. And I just, look, Trump lost the election because of the way he handled Biden in that debate. And if he's going to pull that nonsense again, it's going to look just as spoiled and rotten again. I just don't see it happening.
I just want to win, Frank. At this point, I'm so desperate to win. Like I don't know what to do. I feel like we're in some ways, and I hate to give this thing credibility, we're watching irrelevance, right? Like these debates, unless something happens with the guy at the top of the ticket, and that's got to be presumed as Trump, all of this stuff seems like it could be for nothing. And it's heartbreaking because I'm like, dang, any one of those folks I would take over the current occupant. And I don't know that we're ever going to get that chance.
If the Democrats get their heads screwed on and run anybody other than the occupant, it's a slam dunk for the Democrats against Trump. Literally almost any candidate except Biden. Biden's the only Biden is the one candidate who could get Trump elected because it's once again an election in the negative. And that's the only way that Trump wins. If it's anybody else, literally any occupied suit other than Biden, they're going to beat Trump. And it's just that simple. And Tuesday showed you exactly that. That's the path. That's where it goes. MAGA is not a winning. These purists, like your prior caller said, are destroying the party. And as soon as you get rid of them, you have a chance. And the goal here is to win, not just be purists.
I think even in Colorado, we have some way to hope past this. But if you just look at the results the other night, Republican conservative issues win on the ballot. Not every single time, not the social ones all the time, but the fiscally conservative, responsible, those things win and win by huge numbers. All of a sudden you attach an R next to it and it becomes a matter of personality or MAGA or whatever. And we're getting drubbed like baby harp seals out there,
100% correct. That's exactly right. I think HH obviously went down for all the right reasons because it was an issue, not because it was a personality or like you said, a moniker attached to a name that immediately, brings up all the other baggage that comes with that R. When it's an issue, you have a chance. When it's personalities and things like that, you don't. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's why I think Nikki Haley has a good chance. I don't think that she brings all of this,
stuff,
baggage and things like that. It doesn't.
A lot of words to choose from. I'm glad you picked that one. That was a lot of words.
It was close.
I know.
I bit my tongue.
Frank, thanks for the phone call as always. Good observations. I know some folks are going to be out there disagreeing with those observations and even my comments on it. Call in and have the conversation. 303-696-1971. We've got the big man on the line. We're going to have to save him for after the break. There's no way I want to rush this next call. But also, caller, I don't want to do a 30-minute call. We can't do that. I'm just prepping the battlefield. What you should ask yourselves right now is, with that little bit of information, who is it that is on the phone? Because that's who we're going to. Fill up the lines around him. There's your tease. 303-696-1971. We'll get to some of the texts as well. Here's one, my take on the debate. Tim Scott, too nice to win. Vivek, the rants are getting old. Chris Christie on a revenge tour against Trump. DeSantis would be great, but lacks charisma. Nikki Haley prepared strong, and I wouldn't want to be on her wrong side. Haley for president. This could be Nikki's husband that texted in right there. I'm kidding. Pretty good analysis there right there. Here's another one. Nikki Haley attacked DeSantis' record in Florida quite effectively, in my opinion. But environmentalism, China, etc. I can't. Forgive me. I'm getting to that text too late to know how it fit into the conversation. Someone else helping us with the radio attire, wrestling outfits like Hulk Hogan. It's not a bad idea. If I could fit into one of those, and frankly, that probably shouldn't be the standard.
I have a Lucha Libre mask.
Because
just saying.
That's not a bad thing. And this is a reference to Vivek wanting to give away parts of Ukraine that he thinks already belong to Russia. The Sudetenland all over again. Vivek needs to sit at the kids' table and allow the adults to talk. That sounds remarkably reminiscent to our buddy Corey. In fact, I believe it was probably Corey. Bunch of texts. I promise you we will get to them when we come back. And you, Richard Postma, out there, good friend, watching on the Rumble or the YouTubes, dude, give a call in. Let's have a conversation, man. I miss you. It's been decades since we were at ROTC together 100 years ago. You've got some great insights. Let's talk about them. 303-696-1971. We're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, you, me, mystery caller, and 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUNS. The debates, did you watch them? What are your thoughts on them? We have, I teased our next caller. I don't want to feed his ego here, but there are numerous people that have guessed correctly as to who our next caller is. I'm going to leave you hanging for just one more second. Here's some text. I agree with the caller regarding the electability of Nikki Haley. I'm a progressive liberal, but not a Joe Biden fan. Nikki Haley versus Joe Biden is at least a tough one for me. That's interesting. Abortion's a different argument than the Second Amendment. One is an amendment. The other is a modern phenomenon. Haley's probably the best chance for the R's. George, your obtuse caller is so out of touch. It's sad. Here's one. Pat Schroeder from Colorado also ran, though briefly. I forgot about that. Corey's 100% correct. With his abortion analogy, it's killing the Republican Party on every level. Without further ado, Joe from a place that rhymes with Arvada. Joe, how are you?
Hi, George.
Hey, man. You watched last night?
Of course not. There's no debate. Donald Trump won the 2024 primary long ago.
It's over.
What are these people talking about? Oh, my goodness.
Well, I don't know, other than trying to provide an alternative to the God King. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like,
you know what? Okay, here's the thing. People maybe didn't focus on what actually happened in Virginia. Glenn Youngkin was trying to amplify his attempt to be the establishment candidate to jump into the election by keeping Donald Trump out of Virginia.
How is he going to do that?
Well, that's what he did. Did he invite Donald Trump in to declare MAGA for all of these candidates? No. What he did was he handpicked all the squishes in Virginia to run in their House and Senate, and they got the Dick Wadhams outcome they deserve.
So what you're saying is that Glenn Youngkin failed to invite the guy in to say, hey, can you do for us what you did for Kari Lake and Masters and the other MAGA Senate candidates and governor candidates
Donald
who didn't
Trump
win?
had nothing to do with stealing the election for Kari Lake's opponent.
Here we go.
What's her name? Katie Hobbs?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I
She's
don't know
so
her names.
wildly popular. She's destroyed Arizona in what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Months?
I just can't believe that your criticism of Glenn Youngkin, who has done up to this point great things for Virginia, is because he didn't invite Trump in, as if that's the insult.
What he
is you
did
didn't
was,
like he's got to go to the Godfather, kiss the ring, and be like, "My Godfather, help me, I need you."
well, actually, that's my next point, Brauchler. If you
Wait
are
a
going
minute,
to
have
run,
you shifted off of George?
just a moment. If you are going to run as a candidate here in Colorado, if you want to destroy, 30%, 60% of your base, go ahead and run against Donald Trump. See what happens.
Well, who would run it? What do you mean? Who's going to run for office in Colorado?
Don't
that's
allow
running
him to
against
come in and stand behind you. In
Joe,
other words,
Joe,
say,
hang on. Heads up, man. Donald Trump has the opportunity to come to Colorado anytime he wants. And in fact, the fee to get on the ballot for the primary is half as much if all you do is say, I promise to come there. Donald Trump paid the higher amount so he wouldn't have to come here. So the idea that someone's going to keep him out, it's Donald Trump keeping Donald Trump out of Colorado.
That's because the Dick Wadhams universe has been railing against him. He would come in a moment if there was a Kari Lake with a male version with some cojones to actually stand up and invite Donald Trump
into a gun-free zone.
Is this a reference to the Mexican conservative candidate that got shot today, or the Spanish?
It's a reference to the state. It's a reference to the state GOP centennial dinner that Kari Lake was the primary speaker, the keynote speaker for. It was a gun-free zone.
Yeah, and
Well, but is that what you're suggesting? That this MAGA thing, all this stuff has to be just a certain way for the president, and all along the way we're going to look past the fact that he has no interest in being here? And it's not because of Dick Wadhams. Donald Trump doesn't fear Dick Wadhams. Donald Trump doesn't fear anybody, right? You would agree with that.
What I'm saying is it's that mentality. In other words, oh yeah, we want squishes. I mean, moderates, whatever you want to call them. We don't want real conservatives that want to, strengthen the border.
Hold on. Let's do this. What is Nikki Haley's position on the border that is inconsistent with your own?
Well, I would say that Nikki Haley's inconsistency is simple. She wants to help the establishment start new wars all over the planet.
Buddy, the question
that's
was
what she wants.
Joe, the question was about her position on the border, which you chose as a topic to distinguish squishes from the MAGA. What's her position on the border?
You know what her position is? Probably very similar to
don't
George
do probably.
Bush.
Don't
Just
do
a
probably.
moment. It's very similar to what George Bush's position was. Is like, let's just look the other way. Really?
But you don't know. You just made that up.
What I'm trying to say to you is that she's taken the position of the establishment. Whenever there's a divide in the Republican Party, Nikki Haley finds the establishment position.
But buddy, then when you said that her policy on immigration makes her a squish, you didn't really know that.
I'm saying to you, I didn't mean immigration. I meant on
even the border,
foreign wars.
Yeah, but you didn't say that. Let's go to what's Tim Scott.
That's where I differ.
What's Tim Scott's
Nikki
position on border security that is different than yours or MAGA or Trump's? What's the difference?
Well, like George Bush, they said they were going to.
Tim Scott.
Just a moment. They said they were going to keep immigration to a minimum and send people back, and they didn't. They didn't do it. Donald Trump was the first president in a long time that sent people back.
People get sent back on a daily basis, buddy.
Well, I understand, but I mean on a volume basis. For the other thing was stay in Mexico. Have you heard Nikki Haley say that? Is her policy stay in Mexico?
I actually think it is. I do believe that's her policy.
Well, she gained points. Now she's just got to flip her. I'll kill every other country in the world instead of America
I
first.
want to stick with the debate. Get to Ron DeSantis, who said, hey, Donald Trump was different in 2016 than he is in 2023. Guy wasn't able to get the wall built on the southern border. Fair attack?
Well, I would say this.
Just is it fair? I'm just asking if it's fair.
I would say that it is fair if you consider the Democrat opposition. He didn't get it done because, yes, the Democrats and the establishment opposition was too strong. They wanted the border open because it's cheap labor.
Yeah, so it sounds like what you're saying is he didn't get it done, but he has an excuse.
No, what I'm saying is he got it done better than anybody else. Let's not forget.
No, wait a minute.
Just a moment.
He did, Joe. He didn't.
Let me finish my sentence at least.
He did not campaign on "I'm going to do better than others." He campaigned on a very specific promise.
Just a moment. He had the best rate of low immigration. He kept more people out than anybody. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but wait a minute. That wasn't his promise. His promise wasn't, I'll keep more people out than anybody.
I don't think he finished the wall, so I'll give you that point.
The part that he did finish.
He tried.
DeSantis. Well, is that what we're doing here? Are we doing participation ribbons for president? Good effort.
Well, I will say this: he's the only one that'll get it built in the next administration.
Hard to know. But this is another shot that DeSantis took at him. Same kind of conversation where he said, and he was going to have Mexico pay for it, and they didn't. Is that a fair attack?
I would say that they didn't pay for it, but I would say this, that if the country had gotten behind Trump, yes, they would have.
Hold on. He's the most popular president in the history of the world. How are they not behind him?
You had the establishment and the Democrats working together in tandem against Donald Trump.
Huh? So
Yeah,
wait a
the
minute.
Republicans were working
hold on.
against
So
Donald Trump.
Americans
That's
would
right.
vote for him to be president, but they wouldn't support him in his pledges that he made while running for president.
Well, that's because now America sees that part of the Republican Party is over with. The America Last part of the Republican Party is done. We, MAGA, are now the ascendant part of the Republican Party. And the guy that said that MAGA isn't preferred isn't paying any attention to what's going on in the rest of the country.
Which elected offices has MAGA ascended to?
Donald Trump, the
that's
president
over.
of the United States.
I know,
office.
but the dude lost the 2020. I'm saying other than that, when you say
no,
MAGA,
he won the 2020. You just aren't smart enough to figure out that it was stolen.
I can't make my brain get there right now. You're right, but let's look hold on. Look at any other office out there. Where has MAGA ascended to power?
Well, I would say that Ron DeSantis is really, because of Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis in Florida is
Ron MAGA?
Yeah, on MAGA. That's right.
Okay.
MAGA is, listen to this, MAGA is ascended in Florida, and they prefer Donald Trump over Ron DeSantis.
So
that should tell you something.
Not enough to be MAGA. It's really, you just have to be the personality.
It isn't that. They are America first. And Ron DeSantis has proven that as long as you're slipping him the money in the backhand, the one behind his back, he'll do what the establishment wants. Donald Trump won't.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
That's
Joe,
right.
Joe, I appreciate it. Thank you for the call, and thanks for shifting on to Brauchler from George. You can use my middle name at some point if you find it out as well. Joe's line is open, 303-696-1971. Listen, where are we on the time? Okay, here's what I want to do. Take a quick break and get to Marty, Ron, whoever it is that's calling in right now. And please do on Joe's line at 303-696-1971. Quick thing to tell you about. Her name is Gay Ribble, and Gay Ribble is the BOMB, the bomb when it comes to real estate. Right now, the market is as challenging, I think, as I've ever seen it to be. And I've paid attention to this stuff for decades. Ever since I was a homeowner back in 1996, bought my very first home, wish I still had held on to it. It was stupid not to. Nonetheless, if you want to make it through these waters, selling your house for top dollar, getting into that dream house that everybody else is trying to get because scarcity is ridiculous, then you're going to call Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team with Keller Williams. Now, they have a website, two of them, really. Gay has the buyers.com, G-A-Y-E, Gay. That's the one we've told you about forever. They have a new website. This one is, and it's cool, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. Check it out. Here's one of the things that you'll find out from going there. Gay will guarantee to sell your home at 100% of your asking price, or she will pay you the difference in cash. Who else does that? Who else has the ability to back that up, not only with the cash, but never have to get there because they sell your house at 100% of your asking price? Give them a call at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, or check them out at sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. When we come back, it's going to be Marty, Ron, everybody else, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler right back with you here, 710 KNUS. Want to continue to work our way through the great calls that we have. Marty, you're on 710. What do you think, Marty?
Hey, George, so good to be with you, and thank you for the time. I've got to correct you, though, on that last call.
What did I screw up?
You suggested that Donald Trump was the most popular president in the history, and we know because of the 2020 results now.
You know I'm being sarcastic. You know I'm being
hold on a second, though. But your position, George, now this is a serious nature because your position is loud and clear. The results of 2020 are not to be questioned, and I don't need to go there for this point.
Oh, I never said that.
Well, but there's a lot of tone and a lot of animosity when it comes to the thinking that 81 million people didn't sign up for this. But let's don't waste our time there, George. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
We know this is going to be a record-setting election.
Hope so.
For votes cast, right? You had 75 million for Donald Trump, 81 million for – that's like the entire voting population voted in 2020. You're going to get that in 2024. What on earth makes you think that Ron DeSantis or any of the other candidates have the 85 million fans or more that it's going to take to win 2024? What do you see there that would predict that kind of turnout for these lesser candidates?
Yeah, it's more than that. It's I think there's at least that many people interested in who's president of the United States. And I don't think you have to be a fan of a person to be engaged. The suggestion that you're making, though, is that if Trump's not on the ballot, significant numbers of those people will just throw their ballots in the trash can and not vote at all. I just don't believe that. I think the turnout is epic because of what's at stake, not necessarily just who the two people are. But to that extent, I would also say a bunch of folks are going to turn out to vote against Donald Trump and against Joe Biden. I've never seen anyone in our lifetimes who has done more to motivate the base, and that's Donald Trump 100%, but also motivate his opposition. Nobody has been able to do those two things at the level that DJT has since he jumped into the fray back in 2015.
But do you believe that? Do you believe that the homeless guy, the inner city guy, the guy barely hanging on in society, heard things about Donald Trump in 2020 and raced to the ballot? Yeah. Do you really believe that? Or do you think
I just don't believe that dude voted. I don't believe that guy voted that you described.
No, exactly. But they needed that guy to vote for Joe Biden to produce the 81 million.
No, I don't think so.
What I'm saying is where do you extract that from? I guess illegal aliens are one area that you.
No, I don't think illegal aliens are voting either. And again, your characterization that I'm like, I think it's not to be questioned. That's not true. I'm a prosecutor, man. I question stuff all the time, but I'm an evidence-based prosecutor, not a political prosecutor. And that means if the evidence isn't there, I'm not going to bring the prosecution. And what you have been hearing and maybe even saying is, well, there's smoke here. So not only do you know there's fire, we know it was arson and we know who said it. I just can't get there from here.
No, but you should want to go that next step of inquisiting about now. Why did they shut down that night? Right. So that stuff.
Yeah, but that's been debunked, man. The simultaneous shutdown thing has been debunked.
Okay. Are you okay in 2024 if there is a similar mechanics with the election? Meaning, do you expect them to do that
Marty,
again?
Forgive me, and I wish I could take you, buddy. No, I want this to be a clean election. Marty, thanks for the phone call. I promise you, Ron, we'll get to you after the top of the hour. Fill up Marty's line as well, 303-696-1971. Let's keep this conversation going. You're listening to George Brauchler on 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here. Final hour of the show on 710 KNUS. Great conversations going on, both on the texts, which are fantastic. We do those all the time. I'm adding now, because Mark made a great suggestion, I should just open up some additional tabs here and get the YouTubes and the Rumbles going. Having a conversation about yesterday's debate that took place down in Florida. 5 people left on the stage, going out from, well, I guess left to right: Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Tim Scott. Don't expect all of them to end up on the next stage. I just don't see that happening. Probably Chris Christie goes away is my best guess, but I think he's hanging on for New Hampshire. I think Tim Scott's hanging on for South Carolina. And honestly, even though he's the front runner with all the stuff, if Ron DeSantis takes third in Iowa, and I mean, maybe even a blowout second, but if he takes third in Iowa, it could be time to circle the wagons and just call it a day. Because at this point, I don't know what else his path is moving forward based on the polling and whatnot, but we've had a lot of feedback here. What did you hear? What did you think? We've had people call in, even text in and talk about, hey, I don't think this thing is relevant to the conversation. And I understand that. Some of the folks on the YouTubes here, and I'm going to read this. I liked Vivek. This is our buddy Rich. I liked Vivek calling out the Republican Party as the party of losers and no accountability. Not so much the other stuff, but he's right. Would the Dems hire Gutfeld for their debate? I still think it's going to be Haley or DeSantis, but isn't Vivek calling them both 3-inch heels another example of the Republican circular firing squad? Yeah, I mean, listen, I just feel it's a great point, Rich. I feel like we're at a place now in politics where the zingers are apparently part of our metrics to determine whether or not someone is fit to lead the free world. I imagine there's going to be a lot of comedy writers out there who get asked by folks, hey, give me a zinger to use on so-and-so. That best guess. Someone saying Corey was spot on. If you are so desperate to win, then you should change your affiliation to Democrat until the Trump effect wears off. It's Trump's party going to the Rumbles. Think of this is our friend Tim. Think about it, George. Maybe you and Ken Buck could draft Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger ticket up and running for 24, while at the same time maintaining radio silence about the Biden scandals. Man, listen, we've talked about the Biden stuff as it's developed here, but what I just don't want to be another version of Charlie Kirk or another version of Hugh or anything. They do that topic and that stuff really well. What am I adding to that? And having local commentary on the scandals thing does matter, but not every damn day, man. And honestly, I'm a Republican and I want to win. And if I think the only way I can win is to just keep taking shots at Biden, that's a formula for disaster. I'd like us to put the best product on the field possible. And that's why the debate mattered yesterday. 303-696-1971 is the number. Ron, you're on 710. What do you think, Ron?
Thank you, Colonel.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I think you could add a radio talk show host to the list of, what was it, doctor, lawyer.
The most useless professions.
Yeah.
If I could get, the cast back together to do that, I would, for Parks and Rec. That's where that came from. Ron.
Oh,
it was Ron. It was Ron from Parks and Rec. I just thought your comment was perfect.
Oh, thank you. And I have 2 women I want to talk about. I'm kind of being a spoiler here because I didn't watch the debate. I'm getting ready to go out of town, so I've been packed last night. My political comment is HH.
Okay.
And I have come to realize that I have no impact on any of the matters until it comes to my pocketbook. And I think for me, watching 61% of Colorado or the vote go towards HH to everybody's pocketbook is a big statement. I was shocked to see that.
Does the outcome of that particular race is probably too strong of a word, but that ballot issue, does that give you some optimism that Colorado could stand a chance of moving back to the purple?
Well, in the words of our great governor, I don't think the people of Colorado are so stupid now anymore.
To go purple?
No, Paula said you guys are stupid on
Oh yeah,
something
that's
that
right.
he
He
was
did. You're
arguing
right.
on.
You're right. You're absolutely
And
right.
so
He did.
I'm shocked. I really am. Where I live in Arapahoe County, it's gone all Biden and all that kind of stuff. But I think the issues are what people were talking about in terms of money, jobs, security, safety, crime, all those issues. And I think that's what this kind of said, because if you can't afford to live in your house, then things are really dire.
Did you get a chance to look at this debate yesterday, Ron?
I did not, George, and like I said, I'm kind of a spoiler here calling in because I just didn't have a chance. What was your question?
Well, I was going to ask you your perception of who performed the best and who could you see throwing your support behind, presuming that someone on that stage has the ability to win the primary. Right now, I don't think anybody on that stage has the ability to win the primary. I just think based on the polling that's everywhere and it's persistent, it's going to be Donald Trump. I mean, even if he's kept off the ballot in Colorado, and we can talk about the Minnesota thing, I just think at this point, it looks like there's no way around it. We're going to get stuck with the Trump-Biden part 2. So I was going to ask you who else on that stage you thought was worthy of attention in your vote.
Anybody. just anybody.
Yeah.
I'm a DJT supporter, but I'm shocked that he's going to end up being running.
I know. Me too.
I don't know how to put that.
I just can't believe this is the best America has to offer. These two. I mean, this isn't just a comment on Trump. I'm just like, how did we end up here? I felt the same way with Trump Clinton. Like, how did we end up here? What is the problem with our process? My God, we could end up with Vivek. He's a 38-year-old dude whose concept of the world has changed so much that just a few years ago, he was talking about voting in the Democrat primary. And I don't get it. Ron, I thank you for the call, man. Thanks for hanging on. I know Billy enjoyed the conversation with you. Ron's line is open, 303-696-1971. Gary, you're on 710. Gary, what do you think?
Oh, hi, George. I was kind of flipping back and forth between the debate and Married at First Sight.
Is that, hold on, Married at First Sight, is that the same thing as Love at First Sight or whatever it is? Are you talking about the Netflix show?
No, it's on the network, and it's
damn, I don't know that one.
These experts pick people to get married without seeing the person.
What?
And the series that's going on now it's Denver couples. It's people from Denver.
What channel is this on? I'm going to watch this. It's great rubbernecking humanity.
You can Google it. I don't remember, but it's
so you were flipping between that scientific study of humanity and the Married at First Sight show. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
and the debate.
Yeah, and
what's your thought
as far as the debate? Let me think of the things that stuck out at me. Well, of course, the Ron DeSantis forced smile, like he's posing for a 5th grade photo album. It's kind of pathetic the way he has to force to smile. And the person who also does that is Ken Buck when he's on CNN. He sort of has this forced smile. It doesn't look natural.
Oh, Ken's got, I know what you're talking about. Ken's pretty serious when he's listening, but he's got a great smile. But you're right about Ron. Like, his resting thinking face is very reminiscent of a bulldog or a pug or something,
Yeah, I even noticed it in my news feed. It was on the front page of Huffington Post. They were talking about his smile with a tongue, a smile with a tongue or something.
Well, Billy's got that lizard thing. Did you like any of them up there enough to throw your vote their way?
Of all, I think Tim Scott he's out. He's just in it because he had a lot of leftover campaign funds. And Rob Aswani or whatever, I think he's looking for a radio show gig. So I really think it comes down to DeSantis, Haley, and to a lesser extent, the governor of New Jersey.
Chris Christie. Yeah, Chris Christie.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed was where Haley kind of lost it and called Ramaswamy scum. That's a quote. He called it scum. I don't think
because Vivek said, "Hey, you are crap talking me being on TikTok. Your daughter's on TikTok." And whether it's a valid point or not, I'm not as convinced as you just don't go after someone's kids. You don't use the conduct of the children. I think what he was trying to do was to say, you're upset that I'm on this thing, but as a mother, you're letting it into your house or you're letting it into your family or something like that. And I just thought, dude, there's never, ever a reason to go there. Between that and the high heels thing, it just felt like we were getting super close to opening the door to a gender attack. And I just didn't want to see that because I don't think he's going there. It just felt that way.
Yeah, I just I couldn't envision, and I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. I could never envision him saying into a microphone, calling someone scum. It just isn't presidential.
She was definitely, but what I like about her is, and I'm going to say it right here, in a fisticuff between Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy, my money is on Nikki Haley. Heels or no heels, man. I'm telling you, I think she rips his face off. I just don't. Vivek doesn't strike me that way. He would try to debate her into submission, and I think she would take off a heel and put it through his temple. Best guess. I'm just making that up, but that's how she strikes me.
Yeah, just 2 more points. I'll let the next person speak. The one question that Haley seemed to want to dodge is someone mentioned that she had sold some land to the Chinese, and instead of addressing it, she basically turned it around and said, "Well, DeSantis."
I remember that. You're right.
Was manufacturing products for Chinese, and he scrubbed his Facebook site.
Yep, I remember her saying that.
And it was driving me crazy that one of those moderators didn't follow up and ask them to, Ron, talk about your issue and Haley talk about your issue. I mean, it seemed to be kind of important when it comes to China.
Listen, hopefully that's a future debate fodder. They're all going to be there. I still think, short of devastating setback for DeSantis in Iowa, he's going to be there. Haley's going to be there. Vivek's going to be there. I just don't know about Tim Scott. Maybe through South Carolina. I don't know. Hey, Gary, thanks for the call, man. I want to try to get to some other folks as well. Here's the deal. Terry, Jim, whoever's going to call in on Gary's line, which is open at 303-696-1971. We're going to take a moment here. We love talking to the great listeners in the show, but we love talking to the great listeners who are also participants in whatever's going on up there under the Gold Dome. And to that extent, we have Representative Lisa Frizell on the phone line. Great hearing from you.
Hey, good morning, George.
It was great running into you the other evening at Victory Camp, JJ's, but also great running into you at the airport. I mean, it was just you're everywhere.
Well, apparently so are you.
Yeah, well, I'm just following you. I'm just trying to figure out if I'm Representative Frizell, where am I going? Because that's where all the cool kids are. You had some thoughts on this special session that it sounds like it's going to be called. Maybe you could tell us over HH's failure and what's next.
Yeah, actually, just while I was on the phone waiting to come on, got a text that the governor will be calling the special session at 10 a.m. this morning.
Are you kidding? Breaking news,
you
folks.
Heard it here first.
Breaking news, 10 a.m. We're not the big news boys, but we're the big news breakers today. Representative Lisa Frizell letting everybody know that the governor is going to call for a special session at 10 a.m. Do we know what that special session is going to be empowered to do?
That's the $10 million question, George, because nobody knows. What is gobstopping to me is that they ran HH with no plan B. I think that tells you how they feel about the voters of Colorado, that they just think that we're that dumb that we would fall for this plan. And so there is no plan B that we are aware of. What I am aware of is that there is a lot of frustration amongst the dumb caucus. And so imagine this scenario, George, if you will.
But what are they frustrated about?
Because they feel like they got hung out to dry by the governor and leadership. Because here they sat there throughout the whole session, doing whatever they were doing, without the intellectual curiosity to understand property tax policy. They were told that the governor had it covered. They had it covered. They had a plan. Plan's coming. So don't worry. don't vote on anything else, but the plan's coming. And so they didn't vote on anything else. They voted my bill down, and they all of a sudden got back to their constituents and after session, and they realized that these people are pretty torqued off because they've received property values and property tax estimates that are horrific. And here they were sitting there the whole time doing kind of nothing, waiting for the big answer. The people who were paying attention, they told me that they weren't happy with the answer that the governor provided, but it was too late because it was a week before the end of session.
Listen, the Gazette, just after you've started talking, hit the emails here with, hey, the governor's going to call a special session. Can you tell me, Lisa, are there limits to it? Is it like a constitutional convention where if we ever called one, you could change 8 million things if you wanted to? Or when he calls it into session, are you limited to just a single issue or some sort of, I don't know, guide rails in there?
Yeah, 100%, George. It is limited to a single subject. So the subject,
just like HH, or a real single subject?
I think it's actually a real single subject this time, George. Yeah. But this has just like been so rapidly evolving since Tuesday night when HH thankfully went down. There's just been rumors all over the place. You know, what's the plan? And then we kind of have come to the understanding that there was no plan. But we've heard that there's conversation about just stripping HH of all the Tabor stuff and throwing that out there, which is really bad because that's a terrible plan because we all know that HH really provided no property tax relief. So if we're going to go downtown to the Capitol and the governor's going to go to the expense of taxpayer dollars to call a special session, and this is an expensive venture.
Yeah, what does it cost?
You know what? I'd love to know that.
Somebody knows. Somebody does. That number's a knowable number because I've seen it elsewhere, but I can't remember what it is.
Yeah. It's expensive, but if we're going to go to that expense, we need to make this meaningful. We need to make meaningful change. And we know HH had made no meaningful change in property taxes. I've heard conversation about bringing my bill, House Bill 23-1054 back in some form that the Dems might consider that. That would be okay. That would actually be really good.
Be interesting.
That would be meaningful property tax relief. And yeah, but we can't, there's got to be a plan going into this special session. And we, as constituents, need to hold representatives feet to the fire to make sure that we go in there with a plan that it would be really great if the governor's office would actually work collaboratively with Republicans to come up with a solution that makes this workable for all.
If you think that your and Pelton's bill, that 1054 you mentioned, if you think that stands a chance of passing, that's actually a great outcome from the defeat of HH.
That would be an amazing outcome.
It would be. Do you feel confident about that, or are they going to take 1054 and try to squeeze it?
I'd like to say that the Democrats won't play any games, but they will. And this is not going to be pleasant. I will tell you that. It will not be pleasant, and it's going to be very contentious. There are those who feel like people's property tax bills should go up 40% because government wants that money. That is real.
Government needs that money, Lisa. How can government do all the magic that it's supposed to do if it doesn't have all of our money?
Well, I think they want the money.
I agree with you.
They really want it. So, but others don't. I mean, that's the conversation that's going to happen, and that conversation is going to happen very, very quickly. We don't want to waste taxpayer dollars hashing this out downtown. That's not productive for anybody. So we need to come together. There needs to be some collaboration ahead of time, and let's do right by the citizens of this state. They deserve it.
It sounds like you're going to get to know more about what this limited issue is and the approach to it almost at the same time we do, which is a sad reflection on the communication from one side of the house to the other. But would you please accept this open invitation tomorrow to call in and bring us up to speed on what you've learned today and how you think it's going to play out? Because you just broke news right here. We beat the Gazette. We beat the Post, all because of you. So thank you.
You're awesome. Yeah, I'd be happy to call in. Like I said, this is rapidly evolving, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. We have to wait for the governor to make the announcement and make the call and see what the logistics are, what the time frame that he's suggesting is, and we'll know more.
Lisa Frizell, my representative down there in Douglas County, thanks so much. We'll be talking with you again tomorrow. Good luck.
Thank you, George. God bless.
Yeah, see ya. God bless you too. Hey, listen, before we cut away for a break, and then we'll get back to our full phone lines, Terry, Jim, Arnie, and also a bunch of texts, some of them interesting, like you sure seem defensive about Ken Buck. I don't think you can be objective. My response was defensive about his smile. And when have I ever held myself out to be objective on the radio? In fact, the purpose of me being on the radio is to give you my view of things and talk to you about yours. Then I hear, well, sure, you sure run to his defense no matter what anybody says. I watched him on MSNBC. He's a jerk. Well, maybe you'll get his endorsement to run for a seat. I just thought that it's how the mind works, folks. There's no way anyone can have an original thought or an opinion of their own unless it's motivated by some other personal, self-centered, selfish interest. That's just where we're at, I guess, with some folks. 303-696-1971 is the number. I got to tell you about my teeth. One, I looked at the YouTubes and the Rumbles while I was talking, and I'm about a few seconds ahead in real life. And I saw me reach up, pick orange out of my teeth, look at it, and then eat it on the video. And I thought, maybe that's a good reason we have the video up so I don't do stuff like that anymore. But it also makes me think I am so proud of my smile. God gave me about 99% of it. The rest of the magic comes from our friends at Twin Aspen Dental, who clean it up and keep that mouth healthy twice a year. And I need it twice a year, just like you do. They're the good folks that you reach out to if you're thinking about upgrading your dentist. That's it. If you're not sure what to do, you think you like your dentist, but it seems like there's a new one there every couple years. You're just some dude walking in off the street. Give these folks a call. Become part of this Twin Aspen Dental Center family. They're looking out for you in a way that's different than just the dollars or just the butts in the seats. 303-841-7466. 303-841-7466. You can check them out at twinaspendentalcenter.com. twinaspendentalcenter.com. Say hi to Doctors Richter and Snyder. Tell them you heard about them from me. With any luck, and I love all the hygienists that have all been nice to me, but the one that I've had over and over and over again will likely drive her out of the office is Shiloh. If you get Shiloh, tell her I said hi as well. When we come back, our full phone lines, tons of text. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Some of the text coming in. Well, I believe Joe Oltmann provided some very impressive information on the top of the fact that Biden can't find his way off stage, but millions of people thought he was the best CG choice, kind of thinking there's buyer's remorse along with the illegal shenanigans in 2020. Sorry, just my honest belief. Look, I want you to share your honest belief with me. None of that is proof. There is no, when you hear, do you really believe? That is not a persuasive argument. You saying I disagree with, that's just not a persuasive argument.
The only thing that for the texter, when you talk about the stuff that Oltmann has presented, the only question I have is, why didn't Fox News bring that up in the defamation case?
Or anybody else settling these lawsuits?
I mean, it is directly related. Oltmann's individual statistics and stuff is directly related to manipulation of the vote based on the Dominion voting machines. Dominion took Fox News to court. Fox News never argued they were telling the truth, never asked Joel to testify for him, never brought his statistics up, never. And if their lawyers don't believe that is winning, then maybe you should re-examine the conclusion you've come to, because they came to the conclusion that it wasn't true. And the reason we know that is because if Fox News walked in and said, but Your Honor, here is Mr. Oltmann and his truth, and I place it here in front of you and put it into the exhibits, the lawsuit evaporates. If it is true, truth is the absolute defense against defamation. Fox never argued they're telling the truth, never called Oltmann.
It also strikes me that, listen, whatever it is that Joe has uncovered may be worthy of additional investigation, but it's not worthy of a conclusion. It hasn't gotten there. I am so unpersuaded by the idea that, do you really believe 81 million people? Yeah, no, I've said this so many times. I don't believe that 81 million people voted for Joe Biden. I believe that 81 million people either voted for Joe Biden or against Donald Trump. That is very, very easy for me to believe. And the other ideas that are out there, I don't know, folks. I don't want to get into a stolen election thing, but that's where we'll go with this. Here's one I watched Ross and Mandy react to the debate, but I didn't really watch the debate. They seem to think Haley won. Another one, dumb libs were busy renaming mountain trails and birds while Coloradans are getting priced out of their homes. Too bad ours can't control their emotions enough to lead. There's something to that too, man. We don't need a special session. The Dems could have done this back in the day, back when they were already in session. It wouldn't cost us more money. Who's going to hold them accountable for this garbage? Because Lisa Frizell's right. They could have addressed this with her bill, the one that she and Rod Pelton had. Rod, great representative out of the Northeast part of the state. But they didn't. And they didn't because if they had resolved it that way, then they would have undercut what they believe to be the incentive for you to throw away your Tabor refunds to vote for HH. This is all trying to manipulate you into allowing government to grow. Who's going to hold them accountable now for this? Where's the mainstream media to say, why didn't you do this during the session? 303-696-1971. I want to get right back to the phone lines. Terry from Littleton, you're on 710. What do you think, Terry?
Morning, George. How are you?
Let's find out. No, I'm kidding. What are you doing?
I got to gloat just a little bit. You and I talked about 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you asked me a question. You said yes or no answer. Can Trump be elected? And I said, it's more complicated than that. It depends on events. Can you tell me what events are going to happen in the next year?
I couldn't. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Trump is now leading in the polls and he can be elected. So I thought that was just, it goes
what
to
do you
show
think the events were that led to that?
I think that Israel has this has really brought to the forefront what's going on in our universities, what's being taught, where Black Lives Matter really comes down. I think that all these issues combined together have truly influenced the independents. I think that the Dems are Dems, Repubs are Repubs. The independents are really looking at this, which takes me to my second point.
Yeah.
Which is Vivek last night. I watched it not once. I watched the debate twice. I taped it.
Yeah.
Vivek's opening statement was just amazing. Firstly, he was absolutely right about Lester Holt, Hugh Hewitt, and Kristen Welker. It's a Republican debate.
Yeah, but Hugh's a Republican. He's our guy.
Hugh is a middle-of-the-road, milquetoast Republican, and Hugh is really big on the military at all times. So I think that they would have been much better off, and he's right. They would have had numbers that would have been off the charts had they had Musk, Tucker, and Rogan asking the questions. That's the first point that I think he won on last night.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, he talked about with Kristen. Your channel has been claiming Russian disinformation and accusing Trump. Are you willing to rescind that right now in front of the nation to admit that you were wrong? She wouldn't do it.
Wrong
She
about
couldn't
what?
That their station had promoted that Trump was in collusion with doing Russian collusion, and that it was really Russian disinformation supported by Hillary Clinton.
Don't do it. Billy's chomping at the bit to jump in here to probably ask the question, had you read the Mueller report?
I have not.
In the Mueller report, and by the way, I will take the side of whatever it was the Dems and the mainstream media were pushing at the time. Nothing that Mueller found was even close to that. But Mueller did not say that nothing happened. He just disabused people of the idea that there was some kind of direct phone call between this person and that person for the purposes of political advantage. Having said that, I get Vivek's approach to the debate yesterday. He's trying to remain relevant and strong to not just Republicans who are watching that, but the ones who aren't, who might tune in later because they're Trump guys or gals, and he'd like to be relevant to them. So the attack on the media, it's not anything new. And I think I referenced this in the 7 o'clock hour, man. His attack on the hosts or moderators of the thing, it just sounded a lot like Charlie Kirk did many hours before during the day. So I don't know, man. I thought the rest of his answers, there were some things that concerned me. Are you a guy that listened to Vivek after that opening thing that he did and said, I agree with him that we should encourage Ukraine to give up part of its country back to Russia? Or that, hey, Taiwan is off the table until 2028 when I get reelected and then China can have it? Do those things concern you?
He did not say that about China and Taiwan.
No, that was an earlier debate, by the way.
That's correct. So let's stay on present. He talked about the fact that he wants accountability, and the GAO has
he called the
the
Jewish leader of Ukraine a Nazi. That happened.
I did hear him say that. That is correct.
Interesting.
But, George, I think that his point is very simple. We're sending billions of dollars, and the GAO office has no idea where it's going. And from what I hear in the debate last night, we're actually paying for retirement funds for people working in the Ukraine. Really?
I don't know that. I mean, that's something that I would want to know about for sure. It wouldn't change my opinion, though, that this is a much less expensive in terms of treasure and blood kind of a battle to take on with Russia than it would be if we end up letting them push on to a place where we might have to put boots on the ground. That's where I approach this. I think there's a lot of people who think we have to agree with Ukraine and how their culture is and their government is for us to want to support them. I don't come from that at all. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And in power global politics, an opportunity here to take Russia down a notch or two, even in the short term, because they are mischief makers for us globally, I'm in.
I agree with that, and I understand. And my only point to you, I don't feel passionately or strongly one way or the other. I just appreciate somebody on that stage having a counter opinion. Let's debate it. Why is it wrong to bring this up?
No, I don't think it's wrong to bring it up. Do you agree with him? Because his position, if you agree with mine, you disagree with Vivek.
I don't know, George, because I don't know enough about it in detail to judge one way or the other. Last point I want to make. Can I switch gears?
Real quick. Yeah.
Do you know who Wanda Getter Pataki is?
I don't. Any relation to George Pataki?
And I'm probably saying her wrong name. It's Pataky Pataki.
I don't know.
She was caught ballot stuffing about 3 weeks ago in Bridgeport, Connecticut. She's at trial. She is going to be found guilty, and it definitely would have skewed the election. Now, why I bring that up is Greenwich, Connecticut. If you've ever been there, it's an extremely Democratic area. The Republicans won every single race on Tuesday. Every single one. It was a unanimous sweep. All I would ask is
probably
this question.
stolen election.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is it possible that all of a sudden, when Bridgeport, which is literally about 20 miles away from Greenwich, all of a sudden starts holding people accountable and watching the films, all of a sudden the Republicans sweep an area that has never had Republican domination? I find it interesting. Again, I don't have the answer, but I think we should question that.
Yeah, listen, I'm glad someone's being held accountable for election fraud. We've done that here in the state of Colorado on a lot of levels, including the former chair of the GOP for voting his wife's ballot against the law, if you'll remember that. So I'm glad we're doing it regardless of who the party in power is that's doing it. I'm interested to see the Greenwich, Connecticut results. I'm heartened by that, but in no way do I look at that and go, well, that must be the product of voter fraud. I mean, my God, are you telling me Republicans who represent a minority of the electorate there in Greenwich won an election? I mean, that's the kind of attitude you hear right now about Biden winning. Like, are you telling me? I'm not telling you anything other than prove to me the election was stolen or let's move on. That's all.
And I can't prove anything except that this election, there was voter fraud in ballot stuffing. Let's acknowledge it. Let's understand that it's happening.
Yeah,
All I can say,
which
I'm not
election
trying
was
to-
it? Which election was it that she was stuffing ballots in?
It was for the mayor and for the councilman. And I think
okay.
all I can say is it's not about did we win or lose because of that. Let's just tighten up our regulations. Let's look at it and evaluate it and have some accountability.
Well, let's just prosecute the people we catch who violate them. I don't know that we need new laws. Let's do what they're doing out there. Hey, Terry, thanks for the phone call. Terry's line is open, 303-696-1971. We're going to get to Jim and Arnie, but I got to do a little bit of business right here. And that business involves this. Step Denver. They don't advertise every single day. That's just not how they work. They don't take any taxpayer money. So they don't have money to throw at all the things that would draw your attention to them. So instead, they advertise on this show for limited periods of time so that I can tell you my firsthand real world contact with them. We've done the show, and Pete's done it from there a billion times. We've done the show from there multiple times. These folks are in the business of saving lives. They give men a structured, safe environment in which to come in off the street and work out their addiction issues. It's not a 1 day, 1 week, 1 month feel good program. That's not what they're built for. They're built for the long term. When you leave there years later successfully, you stay sober. You stay on your own 2 feet. You're no longer a drag on the government or on society. Your soul is saved. That's what these people do. All you have to do to help them move along and to continue to do this is you can check out stepdenver.org and find a way to donate the cash. That's cool too. But if you're like me and you have a car or a truck that you could either sell or trade in, but instead you've decided you're going to donate it to them, each vehicle is worth a position for another soul in that program. They're winners. It's not because they hit it out of the park every single time with every single person, but because they know the method for success, and their numbers are just better at saving lives and souls than everybody else is out there who's on the government dole. You got to go check them out at stepdenver.org. What they do is miraculous in a way. It is yeoman's work. All you have to do is call them 303-296-9020, 303-296-9020. When we come back, Jim and Arnie and the text, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here. Final segment of the 710 KNUS George Show for this Thursday. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow right before Veterans Day. 5-star reviews everywhere, increasing the efficiency and joy of living in your home, your kitchen, your laundry room, your bathroom, even your garage. If you've got a place that could benefit from roll them out shelves, you got to give these folks a call. They have been doing this for years. Brent and Joyce Tolliver, I'd love to get them in the studio, by the way, after I get them into my house to take a look around and figure out how they can make it even better than it is. Keep from having to get on your knees and dig around in the dark crevices of your pantry, of your cabinetry, anywhere. Make your house more efficient, more usable, a happier place to be by calling Roll 'em Out Shelves, 303-475-9601. If you schedule that in-home estimate today, you get your first 4, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 rollouts installed, 0 charge. That's an $80 value. 303-475-9601. You can check them out at rollemoutshelves.com. M is EM, rollemoutshelves.com. Going right back to the phones as promised. Jim, you're on 710 KNUS. Jim, what do you think?
Good morning, George.
Hey.
I watched the debate on and off, and I got to say, I thought it was the best debate.
Okay. Tell me what you liked about it, and who did you like?
You know what I liked about it? Every time they started to get into a cat fight, the moderator said, "Nope, you're not going to do that. You can't respond. You can't do your rebuttals," and they kept them on point. I just thought they did an outstanding job. I was really impressed with Lester Holt and Christie. Well, they did a great job. They just basically kept the conversation going in the way of the questions and not going into these personal attacks. That's the last debates. I saw that going on so much. I got so disgusted with it. I thought it was super substantive, and I got to give NBC kudos. It was the best debate I found, totally. Now, I didn't watch the whole thing. I was going in and off. I'd watch 30 minutes, do work 30 minutes, and come back and forth. But I came away with clear delineations on the candidate. I think that Nikki Haley is a Lindsey Graham light, and that would go along with Chris Christie and Rick Scott. They are just in line with what's going on.
Tim Scott.
Tim Scott, sorry. And then I saw a lineup with DeSantis and Ramaswamy, and really when it came to Ukraine. Now, Vivek, I think he gets all his talking points from Charlie Kirk, because he just repeats everything Charlie says.
I agree.
I got sick of that. I mean, it was disgusting. That guy, one thing I can say is that Vivek, he's just an inch thick in substance. And he's not going to go anywhere. And I got to say, DeSantis, talking about Ukraine, and here's the thing, and my wife is Ukrainian Russian. Why aren't we not pushing Russia and Ukraine to do a pause, the same as we're doing with Hamas and Israel? Don't you think that's interesting, George?
I think it's worthy of a conversation for sure. I don't know if it's a game changer or not. Jim, do me a favor.
Good.
Keep calling back in. I got to cut you loose because I promised Arnie, just like I promised you, to get you on, and we're running out of time, and I don't want to leave anybody hanging if I can. Arnie, you're on 710. What do you think?
Hey, George. I watched the entire deal last night, and I set up a scoring system to score each one of the questions.
Okay.
And I gave them a 0 if they didn't answer, and then a 1, 2, or 3. And so by the end of the 2 hours, I didn't pick one person. I have Christie and DeSantis at the top, and I had Haley in third, Scott next, and whatever the hell his
Ramaswamy,
name is.
Ramaswamy. Yeah.
I don't like that guy. I wouldn't vote for him if he was the last person on the ballot.
Even you would vote for him after you'd vote for Biden, or would you choose him over Biden?
Well, of course you would vote for somebody like that, but in my own opinion, he has no chance of being on the ballot.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a chance. That's my opinion. But for example, one of the things that I didn't like is when they would immediately jump off the question that was asked and go someplace else. And when they did that, I gave them a 0.
Arnie, would you forgive me? I've got 10 seconds before Billy's going to yank me off. Oh my God, that sounds horrible. Yank me off the air. Can you please just get to that last 10-second point, and then we'll cut you loose?
Okay. Well, the one, and a typical example of what happened, they asked every single one of them what they would use as an advanced age for cutoff for retirement. Not a single
Okay.
one of them answered the question.
Arnie, buddy, great way to end. I'm glad I got you on. Let's keep the conversation going tomorrow. All you got to do to benefit from it, stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.